Here we are. Soulcalibur 3, Chronicles of the Sword. Soulcalibur being the PlayStation 2 exclusive, fourth in the series, since the first one was called Soul Blade. Every previous, or every following, I should say rather, game in the series being called after Soulcalibur, the second Spirit Sword introduced. Soulcalibur 3 has many game modes. In most particular, my favorite is this one, Chronicles of the Sword. A fighting RPG, strategy RPG hybrid. You create your own characters and level up as you're journeying through 20 Chronicles on a tactical map as we're about to. So this is just all of our introduction. Go ahead and get started here. Once I hit OK here, timing of course is going to be slightly off because of my game capture, but that's just how it goes. So Chronicles of the Sword is a unique game mode that was created by Namco specifically for Soulcalibur 3, and which sadly they have not gone back to in any of their following games. But it was made to introduce just the power of the Create a Soul system, which they developed and used for the first time in Soulcalibur 3. They would bring back Create a Soul in Soulcaliburs 4, 5, and 6, improve it in various ways, but they didn't give us an equally good game mode to really show it off. So, with the exception of the Soulcalibur characters, who are Easter egg super bosses, level 60 at various points throughout the run, starting on Chronicle 4, there are... every character that you'll see was created using Soulcalibur's own Create a Soul system. They don't have any unique looks or anything. You can make an exact copy of all of them with two kind of minor exceptions, which I'll get to when we reach them.
It looks like I got lucky.
So as you see, we have our combat here. I've made Rydia from Final Fantasy IV my main character as a dancer. So you can do your own creations, which I do on occasion, or you can try and base them off of characters, your other favorite characters from RPGs or other video games or other sources of media, you know, just whatever you like, which is a lot of the fun here. I start the timing on this game at the very start of the actual action in the first game, specifically so that I can create whatever characters I feel like and don't have to go with just default looks, which isn't as fun. Especially since I'm going to be stuck with these characters for the next 3 hours. So the purpose of the speedrun, of course, is to complete the game by completing all 20 Chronicles in order. It's kind of a New Game Plus category, kind of a pseudo-New Game Plus, because I am using entirely unlocked game mode, which makes a huge difference in how the game plays. But once you have unlocked everything, you can't start a totally fresh new game without, like, starting with a brand new memory card, or racing your dad, or starting with no memory card, which would be a huge pain to do every time. Most especially because the power of the high-level classes and items and stuff that you get in the game does make such a significant difference that it would add at least another hour and a half to the run, even if I got good at it, and I don't think that's really worth it. It was the first speedrun I ever started to do, and nobody else had done it, so I created the rules, so I decided that just going for the base off of a fully unlocked game would be more entertaining and fun for me, so that's what we go with. So this is the tutorial. This takes place in a fictional continent, kind of pseudo-based on the Eurasian continent. There are marks of Eastern lands, of Japanese stuff everywhere, but for the most part, these three nations that are involved in it are of a Western European medieval influence. We have the Empire of Grandal, the Kingdom of Dalkia, and the Haltese Republic. We are students in the military academy of, or specifically our main character is an officer cadet in the military school of the Grandal Empire, and we are in training here. The tutorial is a big training mission where the head general of the entire Grandal army, who is also our instructor, General Gerardo, teaches us about the game and about leading a military unit at the same time, as such wonderful RPG-style tutorials do. So we learn about maneuvering about the map. We will have, in every map going forward, we'll have a minimum of 3 characters rather than 2, and sometimes up to 5. We have to maneuver around the map and take strongholds in order to advance and complete our objective, which is usually taking out the main enemy stronghold and or killing the main character inside. With only one exception, those two things, if there's either one of them, they're pretty much intertwined. You can't take the main stronghold without defeating the boss, and you can't defeat the boss without taking the main stronghold. As I say, there's one exception we'll get to much later down the line. So this is the basic start. There are a few others where I'll have what the Fire Emblem people call route missions, where instead of just taking out the enemy commander, you actually have to defeat every enemy on the map, and then I really have to change up my strategies and such. But this is the... But at the basic, this is what we've got here. So... Now, there are many little tricks that you have to do that there's not a huge amount of big time-saving things here, but there are a few little tricks that I have to do to save the most amount of time. As you can see, the game totally freezes when I'm giving orders, so I want to minimize the amount of orders that I give. Now, people will follow through on orders to the very end unless they are involved in a Soulcalibur combat, so I want to avoid putting my secondary characters who aren't going to be involved in it in a Soulcalibur combat if I can avoid it, because then that cancels their orders and I have to reorder them. So for that reason, at this point and through several points throughout the run, I send my main character who's going to be doing the main fighting in this building ahead first, and only send her as far as she needs to go to complete the battle, rather than wasting time moving beyond that. And then the other two I delay slightly, so even though they are spending less time on the road, I am spending less time with the game frozen, giving them additional orders by waiting. So it saves real time overall. The game has a in-game timer as well, but it is only precise to the minute, not the second anyway, and you can't see it until you've saved the game and then load up or whatever after, so it wouldn't be practical to use as the timing for this game. So we just use standard RTA. And loads are very long, as you can see. Now, in the Soulcalibur combat system, most of the Soulcalibur games have pretty infamously hard AI. And Soulcalibur 3 is no exception. It has some of the most notorious AI in the series, particularly some of the super bosses, like the super ultimate boss Nightmare or Night Terror is one of the most horribly infamous bosses in fighting game history. However, because of Soulcalibur 3's production, some would say it's rushed, but in other ways it's simply because I believe that there are so many fighting styles, and some of them are a little bit quirky, but the game AI is not programmed to deal with just certain moves on certain move sets, and one of the most terrific is this Xianghua move style, which I call Spin to Win. My main character is a dancer. Now there are 13 classes in the game, 12 main ones, and then the super secret class, which I have also unlocked, Swordmaster. And they each have different strengths and abilities, and they have different tiers as well. When you first start playing the game, you only have access to 6 very low-level classes, and then you'll unlock higher-level classes as you level up those characters within Chronicles of the Sword here. Now we have our cutscene with Abilia. She is the sharpest woman at the academy, so this is a little training exercise between two commanders, us versus Abilia. Abilia is a friend/foe that we will have throughout the series, so she's kind of an important character, which is why she gets introduced in this cutscene. You can't skip cutscenes, so we just have to deal with it. But that's her story and what we're doing here.
Battle 2.
But if you're familiar with Soulcalibur at all, you can tell that I'm using the Soul of Xianghua style with this. That should have been a kill. I don't know why it wasn't. That's okay. I started my taunt a little early. I always like to taunt at the end of battle just because it's one of the things that I like to do. I hate just standing there. I hate doing nothing. I like to do something, and it's a wonderful time to use a taunt because I think they're fun. So got that taken care of. But anyway, now when they first did Create a Soul, on all the later games, they didn't have any Create a Soul specific kind of weapon skills. Instead, they just used the basic Soulcalibur ones. How do you select that and move on? But for this first one, they wanted the characters' styles to be unique from the your created ones to be unique. That's a really surprising gold. Very good fights. They wanted your fighting style to be rather unique from the Soulcalibur ones for the most part, or at least they didn't want everybody in the thing running around with that. So they made 17 special styles that were only second-hand compared to the main one. They did most of the focus on the main styles, of course, to balance out and everything. So they're, the standard Soulcalibur fare. They make them slightly different every game, but you know the general drills and fluff and basic attacks of Xianghua and Kilik and Songmina and Nightmare and Siegfried and Taki and Mitsurugi and all the rest. But they created these 17 alternate styles, and that is what your classes are stuck with for the most part. However, each class, except for the Swordmaster, because it's a special class, has 5 styles that they can choose from. They start with 1, then once you've leveled a character in that class to level 10 throughout the course of the game, permanently you unlock a second class for all of the characters of that class, even in later games. And then at level 20, you unlock a third style. Level 30, you unlock your 4th and 5th styles at the same time, and they are the Souls of styles. Your Soul of Xianghua, your Soul of Voldo, so you actually will use their particular weapon style, as I'm doing here with my Dancer using the Soul of Xianghua. And as you can see, this move, which I call Spin to Win, because that's what it is, the heart of this game is Spin to Win. Our Dancer is able to dominate most enemies just very quickly. This isn't an unblockable attack, but the AI is almost incapable of blocking it, and just as incapable of dealing with it. The minute I knock an enemy down, they will almost always get up right in time to get knocked down again, and it becomes a very powerful high damage stun lock. And this despite the fact that the AI, despite the fact that the Dancer is one of the lowest stat characters. You can see my level 2 Dancer has 243 hit points here, once we get back to her from the menu here. And then when I swap over to my next character, who is a level 1 Swordmaster, except now I'm losing this stronghold as well. Oh well, can't do anything to prevent that without wasting more time. 280 hit points at level 21. So, and the rest of the Dancer's stats, which we can't see without pausing the game, so I'm not going to do it during the speedrun, they are equally bad compared to the Swordmasters, who are extremely good. But the power of the Soul of Xianghua is so great that it doesn't matter. In the later portions of the game, it will be more dangerous for my Dancer. Even at level 40 and 50, my stats will be so low that the higher AI enemies, who tend to be more aggressive and hit me before I can set up the stun lock, are in danger of wiping me at any second. So it's a little bit more difficult there, but especially for the early game, feeding through with Dancer is by far the fastest stat. This is General Gerardo, our instructor and High General, and this is our graduation test. That's the point of this mission. And this is the danger of the Dancer. You can see how low I am just from a few hits. If the AI, it takes a little bit to set up the Spin to Win, of course, and so if the AI doesn't cooperate, they can do a lot of damage to me or even kill me before I can get it set up. Hopefully I will not die too many times in the course of the run. Each death loses me 30 seconds in a final battle. That's going to lose me about 30 seconds here, which is a very bad start to this run, unfortunately, but what can you do? If it's in an earlier battle, because of the extra time loss I'll have not being able to contribute to defensive things, it will also it'll lose me an additional 30 seconds, about a minute. So,
did the pain set in yet?
Now you can see the how quickly I tore through him with the Swordmaster. So, a lot of people have asked before watching my videos, well, the Dancer is so powerful, why don't you just have a party of Dancers? And the answer is pretty much shown there at how my first character lost. Especially at lower levels, I'm not going to have the hit points to survive too many hits, and so I have to play almost entirely flawlessly. In addition to that, there are some battles where this was pretty good, so it looks like I'm only going to lose about almost 30 seconds still, yeah. It's pretty close to 25 to 30-ish seconds is what you lose on a final battle loss. So your characters are fragile enough to die that easily. The Swordmasters, things have to go super wrong for them to ever lose any of their fights. However, I actually need to do an adjustment here. I'll explain this in a second. Okay. That's going to lose me a tiny bit amount of time, too, because I didn't do that optimally, but oh well. The Swordmasters are not as overall fast for most of the fights, but they're still extremely good even at low level, which is one of the reasons why making the rest of my characters are not going to be fighting enough to gain a whole lot of levels. They will probably be in the low 20s by the end of the game if the EXP is spread relatively evenly, which it tends to be, just depending on how I run. I don't have an exact experience route because it's not super important. It does help, but it isn't vital like it is in a lot of your more traditional RPGs. To be at a certain level for certain effects or stat growths or whatever, it's mostly depends on your fighting ability. But so Swordmasters are really good as the backup, but the main character who does most of the fighting beats up most of the game by being able to spin to win like that. That probably saves me 3 to 5 seconds on most fights over using a Swordmaster, and that builds up in a hurry, even with the occasional death that you'll get. I'm really, really upset that I have a death in Chronicle 2. It happens on occasion, not very commonly, But, you know, it's just something you have to deal with. This game is too long for me to worry about resetting after one of the early Chronicles, even though theoretically I could get a whole lot better. But there's still so many things that I can do to improve. It's better just to wait and move on. Because there are advantages to losing as well, which is actually more experience for other characters.
What?
With a set amount of fights, you get a small amount of experience for losing, and it doesn't take away the amount of experience that the eventual winner does get. Now, the whole reason that I went with infantry here is that in addition to, unless you're super familiar with the game and with this game mode, you don't even know what the infantry or bandit thing is. Well, in addition to classes, your characters can have 4 different unit types, which matter here on this tactical map. And those can be, unlike the class, which is set for a character when you create them, and a weapon style, which you can change out your weapon and weapon style at any point by pausing the game and changing the menus. So that's a possibility for some strats, which I've tried on occasion, but generally just hasn't worked out for me. But you also have 4 types of units, and they affect your movement speed on the map, how much damage you do to other units if you let them just sit and attack each other, which you will see on very occasionally, as well as how much damage you do to strongholds, and so movement, damage to strongholds, and then damage you take and deal to other units on the field. And most of the time I'm playing as bandits, who have a major disadvantage in that they are totally useless fighting other units in the field. No matter what level I am, no matter what stats I have, no matter what level the enemy is, a bandit would never be able to defeat another unit on the field if I just let them battle it out. But as you see, I have super quickly through the menus, very initiated Soulcalibur combat, which you can do pretty much at any time your units are engaged with another unit in the field. And in there, it doesn't matter. The bandit, I think it does, supposedly, for what I've read, and a little bit of what I've been able to witness and see as well. Being a bandit does slightly affect your stats in battle, but not enough to make a huge difference versus the time that you save. The advantage of bandits is that they are the second fastest unit in the game and the second fastest at taking strongholds. They deal the second most damage to strongholds. And the unit type that occupies first place in each of those categories is also the worst in the others. So cavalry move the fastest because you're riding horses, but they do the least damage to strongholds. They do half of what knights do, and just 60% of what bandits do. So that's incredibly weak and slow taking strongholds. Knights, on the other hand, are like the ones who are running up here to the stronghold. They deal 6 points of damage per hit to a stronghold, but they move so slowly they never reach the strongholds. So the bandit is a very nice balance that is by far the fastest way of moving about the map taking strongholds. So why did I switch to infantry? What's their strength? Well, actually I switched to the infantry because they are slightly slower. They are middle of the road in most things. They're actually tied with knights. Both knights and infantry are pretty much equally good in combat. Cavalry are slightly below them, and then bandits are way down at the bottom and are totally useless. But the main reason for this strategy, going slow to go fast, is because of this stronghold that I just took right here with my main character. Because it takes so long to load battles, I want to minimize the amount of different loading screens I have with different fights. And this map happens to have a mission of defeating all enemies rather than taking the main stronghold. So I can't just ignore those guys and head south here and just take the main stronghold. I have to defeat them as well, but because they're on this alternate path, the easiest way to fight them is to run into them. But if I was a bandit, and especially if I started closer, or if I started closer to that stronghold, I would take the stronghold before the other 2 knights that were rushing up actually entered the stronghold. So then I would have taken the stronghold from one character, then had to fight an additional 2 on defense afterwards, which would have had another loading screen, 15 to 20 seconds. But by fighting them all at once instead, that greatly reduces the loading times, and the amount of time I lose for having a slower character approaching the main stronghold here is lessened because of the fact that there's very little left of the stronghold. So this is one of the only times that I'll actually change from a bandit because of this fight, but it just happens to work out here. Especially because bandits, while they are really good against most strongholds, they only do 4 points of damage against main strongholds, which, coincidentally, is the same amount of damage that infantry do to both regular strongholds and the main stronghold. So it's effectively, as soon as the infantry reaches the main part here, they are the same anyway. Come on. There we go. Luckily, you're in a ducking state when you spin to win, so if they do a mid attack or a low attack, they're going to hit you, and it's a pain. But if they attack high, you'll go under it, and then you can continue your attack. Thank you for being super slow with that attack when they come out. Now, you may notice that these soldiers we're fighting are generic Grandal soldiers, but we've been fighting in different color before. Red and blue are both Grandal, so there's a lot of Grandal fighting Grandal, and then you are for like training and stuff, and then those colors are alternating. You know, depending on, one of them is red and one of them is blue. Most of the game we're going to be red. But these guys that we're fighting, this enemy army, is orange, and each color represents a different group or force. This is the only time we'll be facing orange. They're a bunch of bandits. After defeating Gerardo, we graduated from the academy. We received our own command here at this little border post. In the middle of the night, bandits attack. We defend against the bandits, but there was something interesting about two of them, which is the reason, storyline-wise, why we're required to defeat all enemies, so that we can make sure that we have to see these guys who are dressed as regular Grandal soldiers, because there are a bunch of totally generic types of units for each side that have a set costume uniform and a generic name of the nation, like Grandal, the two Grandal goes defeated. So why are these guys here? Were they mistaken programming? No. As it turns out, it's based on the story. These bandits that attacked were dressed as Grandal soldiers, and at the beginning of this battle, we were attacked by the Kingdom of Dalkia. They declare war on us, and they're claiming that it's in retribution for us attacking them first. So we realized that these fleeing bandits that we saw, who were dressed as Grandal soldiers, were attacking both sides. This was a setup. These bandits intentionally got their hands on some uniforms and used them to attack apparently both sides in order to incite a war between us. So this is not a just war. It's been totally planned. I bet you've never heard of any kind of a plot like that in any kind of strategy fighting or strategy RPG, army-based RPG type game you played. But regardless, it's what we have to deal with, and we still have to defend ourselves against Dalkia. So this map is fun because we only have to fight 3 enemies total, because of this wonderful path on the north side that is there. So you can use gold, which this is the only thing left I can use gold for, because the rest of my gold you would spend on unlocking things, but this is a fully unlocked game file. You can use it to upgrade your strongholds to make them more powerful. This gives them more hit points, so they're harder to take down. There are a couple of other uses as well, but that's the main reason I did it here, so that all these guys who are obsessed with taking my stronghold will take longer to do it, and will not come down to fight me until it's going to be mostly too late. So doing that, I'll do that on occasion, largely to create barriers to keep enemies from taking certain of my other important strongholds or reaching certain of my other armies. So our next fight is going to be against Luna, who may or may not run out of this stronghold to confront us. Sometimes she actually stays inside, which is a little bit weird, but usually she comes out like this. Luna starts combat automatically. Luna, I do not have to start the battle with, because certain important characters they don't want you to defeat in the field, and so when they meet you in combat, they will initiate it. Luna is the leader of this invading force. She's an important commander in the Dalkia army, and so she sees ourselves as a rival as she introduces herself here. We fight her 4 times, more than we fight any other character in the game.
You're certainly a handful. I shall remember.
Now this is my basic speed run, any percent as normal, but my secondary and actually my generally more preferred category of the game is what I call SC%. It's a semi-meme category, kind of an almost but not quite all bosses run that I mentioned before, that the Soulcalibur characters are Easter egg secret bosses. Not really super secret, they're easy enough to find, but they're generally out of the way, and they're level 60, so you can most of the time ignore them when you're playing the game casually if you don't want to try and 100% every map. Which, I don't know, I was always 100% mapper myself, but that's how it goes. I should have given these guys the order to run all the way, but I messed up there slightly. Part of it is because I don't know if Luna's going to stay inside the stronghold or not. But anyway, in this stronghold right here is the first Soulcalibur character we would encounter, Astroth. We're ignoring him because it's any percent, but on SC%, this semi-main category, I require myself to defeat all 23 of the Soulcalibur characters in addition to everything else. And so it's one of the interesting things about it is it changes out how I run each map as well. I have to come up with a different strategy when I have to take a path. Because here you can see that the path I've taken, which is out of the way, is totally far away from Astaroth. I would have to come down here through this path in order to reach Astaroth before, because as you can see on the map, you can only travel via the roads that are given. So now I need to pay a little bit of attention, because they're all coming around here to try and protect their main stronghold. Many enemies are programmed to do this when it comes under attack, and there are so many of them that they will interrupt me before I finish this, but there's a little quirk in the game. If I'm defending a stronghold, I can always choose to initiate combat just to more quickly deal with the enemy and not wait for them to take it down. But the AI is not programmed to do that. So even though they want to defend the stronghold, just by attacking it with my one guy, they cannot leave by that road to defend the stronghold because I'm standing there. And although I could initiate the combat to fight them all if I was desperate to save my own main stronghold in a similar situation, they can't do it. So by pulling a character back, I ensure that I'll be able to do this fight alone. Now I mentioned that all of these characters, just look at this guy. Arion is tall. He's unusually tall, and I don't know why. There are two characters in the game who are, two bosses in fact, who are exceptionally tall for no particularly good reason that I can tell. I don't know why their sprite is bigger, but it always is. It's not a bug, it's kind of the way they're programmed. But otherwise, his equipment and everything are perfectly normal, basic kinds of things that you would be able to build yourself. But for whatever reason, they made his sprite taller, and it doesn't seem to make a difference. Doesn't really give him extra reach or a bigger hitbox or anything that I can tell, just like Astaroth really doesn't. But it's a weird thing. So pretty normal pace, except for the one death. Chronicle 1 was really good, which keeps this from being closer to a 30-second time loss. So this map, we finally get our fourth character, and we also have an interesting loss condition. There's only ever one victory condition, but there are multiple loss conditions. There's only one way to win, but there are lots of ways to lose. You lose if all of your characters are defeated at the same time, because your characters will regenerate if they're ever defeated in battle. They will retreat, and after a timer, they will pop up. There will be at least one time during the game where you will see that in action. But if ever you lose all of them at once, you lose the mission. If ever my main stronghold is taken, I lose the mission. Both sides always have a main stronghold. And in this particular Chronicle, I lose if both halves of this very large bridge, this battle on the big bridge, if you will, if I lose both sides, both strongholds on each side of the bridge, they're controlled by the enemy, I lose the game. If somehow I take their side of the stronghold and they come around and take mine, which is impossible, they're not programmed to work around like that in any way. But if it were ever to happen, I still wouldn't lose. I would need to lose both. But because they do have three guys coming here, I do have to keep one guy here to protect it, or else I'll lose the game. So one character sacrificed over here. Celis from Final Fantasy VI, one of my favorite characters. Pretty easy one to make. This is more based on, of course she has a couple of different appearances depending on if you use her original artwork or the more closer to the sprite from FF6, and obviously I use the sprite work more as my guide because that's what I'm more familiar with. So I have to defeat these guys just to protect the bridge, and unfortunately, the rest of the mission goes by so quickly that she actually won't be able to rejoin the main force, so she's just going to sit here and attack this other stronghold in order to convince a couple of the enemies, or at least one of the enemies, to not defend it and run back. As it turns out, most of the rest of these enemies up here are going to be running back to defend the main stronghold. There are two Soulcalibur characters on this map, Ivy and Cervantes, who we're not going to see because, once again, they're out of the way. There is one Chronicle where I will actually go through the Soulcalibur characters because they happen to be in the fastest path. Otherwise, however, they're way out of the way and not worth worrying about. So this Chronicle, so there's Ivy. Boom. One of the cool things about the Soulcalibur characters is that they're in their secondary outfits, which vary a lot more than their primary outfits do, and for the most part, the secondary outfits in Soulcalibur 3 are a combination of cool and fun. Most of them are a lot better than the first player outfits, as far as I'm concerned, for various reasons. Either because they're hilarious, because Astaroth, for instance, has a hammer head, Boldo has a sun and moon head, Yoshimitsu has a squid head, which is really freaky and hilarious at the same time. And some of them just look kind of cool, so it's really neat that you get to see those less common outfits on the characters when you're busy fighting them. But again, we're not really going to do that very much in this one because this is any percent. Any percent is 40 minutes quicker than SC percent, based on my current records, because of all the extra time I have to spend fighting not only the Soulcalibur characters, but the additional enemies and such that are in the way. So this is one where it really slows down in any percent because of the fact that I have to divide more forces off to the right side, because I have to take out that other stronghold on the other side and then go confront Cervantes, and I have to duck through here to defeat Ivy. I actually don't end up fighting the boss of this Chronicle, who is Rowan, because this is the only Chronicle in the game where the main enemy boss, as it were, of the level does not stay inside the stronghold. He's on that horse. He's the cavalry unit just to the left of this stronghold I've just taken. You can see him there standing almost on top of Ivy at the moment. And so he is going to try to rush back to defend the main stronghold once it comes under attack, but because he, again, is a cavalry, which, again, are totally useless at taking strongholds, he's not going to reach before we take the main stronghold out. Unfortunately, all of his minions on the other side of the map will. This guy comes running through here, which is annoying. If he'd just stay inside the stronghold, that would make things a lot better, but he doesn't. She doesn't, maybe, I can't remember. Doesn't matter. And so that's going to slow things down a bit.
Fate. Final battle. Fight.
Yep. So naturally, you spend pretty much this entire game under level, and that's a consistent thing, even if you fight all the enemies. You just don't get enough experience to level everybody up. Luckily, once again, levels don't make a huge deal, although it's definitely, especially for my dancer, it's going to be very good that I'm going to be level 50 at the end instead of only level 15 or 20 or whatever. So the rest of my characters are level 1 still, but that really, except for Silas, who fought enough characters to go up to level 2, but it doesn't matter that much. There are a few precise things I have to do over the course of the speedrun, but for the most part, it's a somewhat relaxing run, because there's a lot of downtime. There really is, which is one of the sad things about it, but I don't mind it. And there... Oh, that's unfortunate. I was thinking about that and totally forgot. I didn't actually want to fight this battle. I didn't think that I actually would, but I can't remember from time to time all these some of these little things, which I should better, but whatever. It's been many times as I've run this. So this is going to lose me probably about 15 seconds, 20 seconds because of loading times. More if this guy does not cooperate. But it's going to get more experience for Silas. That's the good news, right? Kind of defeats the whole purpose of attacking here anyway, because I'm just trying to distract the enemy to keep them from coming at me. That's how it goes. You can, of course, order units to fall back from attacking a stronghold before it reaches. If an enemy is engaged, if your unit is engaged with another enemy, they won't be able to make those kinds of decisions. You have to either let them fight it out or start a Soulcalibur battle to get rid of them, but it's something that's there. And the last guy always arrives just in time to defend it.
Decisive battle.
The good news is, I do have multiple minutes. This PB's been here for like a year and a half, almost 2 years now, I think. I just haven't been able to crack it, but I just fairly recently-ish have come up with a few strategies on a couple of the later Chronicles, which could save enough time to still make this PB eventually. I just keep having really horrible luck or a few egregious mistakes, worse ones than the one I just had there, and forgetting to have Silas move so she doesn't have to fight. I've had minutes costing mistakes, losing Chronicle because I forgot about an enemy that was going to cause me to lose by taking the stronghold a couple times. I've had that happen a lot recently, all of my more recent runs, which has prevented me from getting my PB, but eventually I'm going to be getting that.
3, fight.
Now, your weapons in this game don't have stats, but they do have properties. And so I'm using Soulcalibur with Changhua because it is the ultimate weapon for the weapon style and has 4 positive properties, including a very powerful attack up. Not all of them have attack up. They're kind of like weapons in Final Fantasy X, if you want to liken it to another more well-known RPG that has a similar circumstance. It's pretty common for the Soulcalibur games, but when it comes to role-playing games, it's, usually you go to the next town, go to the shop, buy a better weapon. But these weapons, each weapon style has 6 or 7 weapons. The basic weapon has no properties, and that's what you use when you're playing generic arcade mode style stuff with no powers. But then and then you have a few special weapons that have usually 2 to 3 properties that are usually positive, but sometimes negative. And then you have your ultimate weapons, which have 4 properties. Most of the time, all of them are positive, but sometimes some of them are negative. And for example, actually, the Swordmaster is using the katana style, as you've seen, and the ultimate katana weapon, the Mirasame, has 3 positive attributes and 1 negative attribute. It's one of the ones that has a negative. It drains my health slowly over time. Something that if you've paid a lot of attention to my life bar in the short moments where I've been playing with my Swordmasters, you may have noticed that dip. However, it also increases attack power more and more as the battle goes on, and gives life drain, which in this game, the life drain, or vampirism, or whatever you want to call it, is extremely powerful. When I deal damage, I get health back. And there are a couple of different ways that weapons can restore life to you. Soulcalibur, for instance, restores life slowly over time. It'll tick Rydia's health up, so if Rydia's involved in a large amount of fights and takes damage early but doesn't take damage afterwards, she will get closer to, you can see it ticking up slightly if you pay attention to the left bar now. Relatively quickly, but not enough. These battles don't last long enough for it to save her most of the time in a series of fights from dying. It might give me 1 extra hit, but only if a fight is going very long and the enemy keeps blocking and not being hit by my attacks. On the other hand, life drain is incredible. You will probably see at least once during the course of this run, maybe a couple times, that I am going to take a lot of hits with my Swordmaster and drop down to a very threateningly low life total, and then I will get it almost all back by the time the battle is over because of the huge amount of life drain that vampirism effect gives. So this map, we're pressing in against Dalkia, and now we're fighting Luna again, and Luna has brought along, as she will every further time we fight her 4 Klesser Pemdo. It's the name of her 4 elite guard, 4 ladies who represent the 4 elements in weird ways, because you can tell what element this character is supposed to be just by the map. They actually do select the maps of the strongholds they defend based on what their element is. Yes, Lupi is fire. She has lightning on her blade because of the mission effect. I haven't talked about missions at all because they haven't come into a play a whole lot yet. But this is the map where they really make a difference. So each of the 4 has a mission that affects their defending stronghold based on that element as well. So missions are named such because that's a common thing in Soulcalibur. It's kind of a weird thing, but there was a mission mode in Soulcalibur 1, and that caused you to fight a bunch of battles with some sort of weird supplementary effect that just affected the battlefield. It sometimes causes huge knockback, causes people to be pushed around by wind effects, similar to such things. Or, ice physics. Hey, ice physics, that sounds like a mission, right? Let me direct your attention over here. Ice. The reason why I'm going this path is because of this, because Gildo of water is in this mode, which gives a mission of ice. So if I were to fight in this stronghold, I would be under the effect of ice physics, which, as you can probably guess if you played any video game with ice physics, that really sucks. It's very easy to go sliding off the stage, and a lot of times the AI, when they're defending an ice-based stronghold, they're programmed to take advantage of it. They use attacks that generally cause a little bit more knockback or push, even if blocked on ice. They normally wouldn't, really push you back, but on ice they do. So they're actually programmed to use those attacks more, and it's threatening. Elua here is wind, and so we're getting blown around by a whirlwind, but the effect is minor. But you can see that I'm moving while standing still.
It looks like I won today.
That's the effect of the whirlwind. More powerful whirlwinds can be very bad because they can actually... this one's weak, so it doesn't push enough to cause it. But later whirlwinds will push me away enough that my combos may not always follow unless the enemy happens to be nice and stand up forward, which puts them right in range to be blasted by me. And so these missions, most of the hardest fights in the game are determined by the powerful missions in certain strongholds. Luckily, Luna has a basic one, Pure. Her health will come back over time, similar to how Xianghua's sword does that to her naturally. It doesn't really make a huge difference to us. Now you may notice that these two are running here, and that is perfectly fine, because this map is not actually, the objective is assassination of, you know, as they call it again in Fire Emblem and similar games. It's not just to defeat the leader, but all 4 of her guards all have to be defeated. So the fact that they're rushing back to defend is convenient. When I first started routing this for speedrunning, I played it like I did casually, like pretty much probably everybody does casually. You get 4 characters, there are 4 prongs, 4 mini-bosses to defeat before the main boss, just run a character up each line, right? Well, as it turns out, I realized that by manipulating them like that, and just going up one path, I can avoid the 2 more troublesome strongholds and instead do the dangerous one.
So we meet again.
By the way, the character standing in the middle between the 2 center strongholds there, here in the crown area, is actually Lizard Man, one of the 23 Soulcalibur characters. Of course, we're going to ignore him on any percent because it's dangerous and we don't want to deal with it. It looked like Luna blocked that attack and it went through. What actually happens and why it is so bad is her AI is so bad she releases block or she ducks at a frame-perfect moment to get hit. Because she thinks it's coming in low or whatever. I don't know why that happens, but it's just the way the AI works. Occasionally they will keep their block and hold it. Not very often, and it's annoying when they do. But that's the other worst thing that can happen when I have this going, is if they decide to get up late. Which AG did there. So my attack string came while she was on the ground, and then she immediately stood up afterwards and was no longer subject to the stun lock, which is rather unfortunate, but you know, it happens.
Battle 3.
And here's Healdo of Water. AG was the Glow of Earth. She has Quake, which is a golly. Sometimes Healdo does this. I had a chance to make up some time, but Healdo gave me my second death. This is pretty bad to have 2 deaths already. Normally, I hope not to get a death until, like, Chronicle, probably...
Battle 4.
On a good map, I might not get it until, like, Chronicle 16. 7 is a good chance to die. Thank you for that. That helps a little bit. I'm losing more time here, though. Okay, there we go. Healdo is normally... It's one of the fun things about this game. Fun in quotation marks. The way the AI works is it's pretty random. I can induce them to do certain things. I can manipulate them with certain attacks that they're not good at blocking. Good afternoon, Omega Number. But the big difficulty is that any opponent at any time, including some of the generic super easy characters, can just decide, it is my moment to be a hero. I'm going to be aggressive and attack a lot, and they will always choose frame perfectly the best attacks to counter you and do a lot of damage, and there's almost nothing you can really do about it. At least, you know, not without slowing down. Now, theoretically, if I was a better player and a lot more defensive, I could go through a lot of these fights more easily without losing, but then I'd lose a lot of time playing defensively versus trying to take them out as quickly as possible. It's kind of the double-edged sword to this game and how it functions. So, Healdo just decided it was her time to kill me and made me lose more time, but that's the breaks. Still not super duper duper bad. But if things go well, this is another one where I can get a loss because I have to deal with ice physics for the first time. Very, very annoying. Now, you may notice we're fighting teal this time instead of yellow. So we've been conquering Dalkia, we've taken large portions of their territory, sent them back on numerous defeats, but now all of a sudden the Haltese Republic has declared war on us. Not given a real reason, probably just because, hey, our other 2 major rivals are beating the crap out of each other, now's the time to take advantage of their weakness they're going to have. So, we are called to leave Abilia, who joined our party back during the bridge mission as our second-in-command. We've left her in charge of our forces there invading Dalkia. She's going to mop up and get the glory for conquering Dalkia, while we have to take the rest of our weary troops forward. I guess Chrono gets to fight because that's just the quickest access right here. And we are going to go into, into Haltiste to counterattack them in retaliation for them declaring war on us. Our soldiers are not happy about that. In addition to the characters I've created here, we do have a number of NPCs, PC characters, whatever, that are part of the party, which I can use, and they have comments and stuff that I've been skipping in all of the intro text. They aren't happy about this matter, but then General Gerardo shows up. Good old General Gerardo, the head general of the entire Grandal army, and he's put himself under our command. He says, yeah, looks like you guys are in trouble. I'll help out. And so we're still the commanding officer of these troops. And General Gerardo, you know, again, the commander-in-chief of Grandal has placed himself under our command because he likes us as a cadet so much. In fact, okay, I'm glad that in the middle of 2 wars, you have the freedom to make decisions like that. I guess you really are commander-in-chief. You do what you want. So he's a level 15 unit, so if you're playing this game casually, especially for the first time, he's a pretty good unit to get here because he's a knight, which is a very strong class, very high hit points, defense, still pretty good attack power, and at level 15 his stats are really good and much better than pretty much any of the characters you have at this point in time. Now in 8%, this is a kind of amusing little fight because of the rest of these I am messing up here slightly. I guess this is going to start, but I'm going to have to give orders too. Oh well. Did not optimize that properly. I lost track of where I was. Kind of a weird thing with the controls in this game. You can use R1 and L1 to swap between characters. You can also use the D-pad or the left stick to move the cursor around as you've seen me do, and it will auto-lock onto your characters so you can give them orders. But the 2 different ways of selecting units are entirely unrelated. So if I've selected a unit with the R1 button, it cycles through them in the order that they are in my list of characters. So it starts at Rydia, then goes to Chrono, Celis, Cyan, and then eventually back to and then eventually to Meliadul if she were in the party. But if I end up selecting somebody with the cursor instead, it remembers that I last selected Celis or whoever, so when I hit R1, it won't go to the next character after the one that I just selected with the stick here. It will go instead to the one after Celis, who I had selected last time with R1 L1. Kind of, I'm not sure if I'm explaining it right, but it makes it sometimes tricky in these little moments where fights are coming quickly after each other for me to remember who is where, and I didn't do it right at that point. Sometimes that happens. So all these units are going to be trying to come after me, which is why I built this one up. But this will stall them out enough that they won't reach me before I finish off this stronghold right here. I think I found recently that I'm doing a slightly older strat here. I think more recently I've been doing this one instead because it just tends to work out better, though it doesn't really matter in the long run. It just convinces that soldier right there who's charging in to defend, it instead has her continue forward to around instead of trying to come this way. Not sure quite why. The things that manipulate the AI are very, very slight and subtle. Very small actions you do can completely change what the AI decides to do. So here is our wonderful thing with ice. So once again, we have to just hope that the enemy is not aggressive like that, and instead lets us get them. Luckily, Spin to Win auto-tracks enough that it works decently on the ice, but because it's ice and we're sliding around as badly as we are, you can tell already just how badly these ice physics work. That I'm really at the... I'm more especially at the mercy of what they decide to do, but... Oh, that time it slid me just a little bit too much to the side. A little bit of timing, because of the way she got up, just from that direction, right as I was attacking. That went well. Which is good because it actually went really well in my PB. This is often where I will get my first loss during one of these runs, because it's ice and it's super unpredictable and I can't really deal with it if they decide to be aggressive and attack. But luckily they didn't, so I'm at least not going to lose very much time here. It was a super good gold, so I might still lose a little time over my PB, we'll see. Especially since I stumbled at my initial order back there, but that's okay. They will not make it through these strongholds before I end up taking them. But you can play some Benny Hill music as they desperately try to chase after me as I go running straight through the middle. So another couple little tech I don't talk about much, but there's a couple of different techs I have to use for getting through message spam, which I have to be careful about because if there's a message in the middle of the fight and I'm spamming through it and I spam too quickly, I'll select whatever I have my cursor over when it's over, which of course pauses the game. But text like this feels kind of similar to Final Fantasy IX. Pressing one of the buttons once fills the text box, and pressing a second button causes the text box to advance, both instantly. So by spamming two buttons in most of the generic text boxes, that speeds through the dialogue fastest and gets through the game faster. However, there is a difference in...
Battle 1. Fight.
Oh, this is going to be perfect. Not quite. Mooncalf stood up. Oh well. Good enough. Good enough. Okay, that was a pretty good fight.
Really give up.
Mooncalf can be really mean. Mooncalf
I'm
1.
sorry, but I must move on.
The text between Chronicles, however, the beginning text for each Chronicle, I should say, just autofills and goes faster if you hold a button, but then you have to press a button to skip to the next stage. So I usually hold with one and then mash with the second so I can skip to the next page as quickly as possible, and that's the fastest that goes. So now, this is our only fight against Haltese, because in the middle of the battle, this woman Mooncalf appeared, murdered the commander, who we defeated on the ice physics, and says that the country's going to be destroyed. And now the Haltese capital is already in ruins. This other force is suddenly invaded. Where did it come from? Well, it turns out it's Mileta, which I think is supposed to be a province of the Haltese Republic. Its provincial leader, whoever he was, declared himself a king of a new kingdom and rose up in rebellion and took advantage of our initial attack and their preparations for war against us in order to begin this invasion and complete it. And so we could just wipe our hands of the whole situation and leave. But like many RPGs, our character doesn't actually have a choice about what they're going to do. Our character is got a soft heart and is humanitarian and wants to save these poor Haltese soldiers from being slaughtered and the other people of Haltese. So we're going to fight the forces of Mileta on behalf of the nation that just declared war on us. Sure, why not? And General Gerardo, is the... And once again, our character doesn't speak either. It's one of those kinds. We have a silent protagonist. The orders that our character gives and the decisions that we make are implied by what our forces under us say in their conversations. And so Gerardo tells us that our soft heart is going to be the death of us. So now there's another loss objective in this map, which is really cool in that if we lose, if 3 Haltese soldiers die, we lose the mission. There are 5 total on the map, but that's okay. It's pretty easy to avoid having 5 die, or 3 of them die, because in actuality, the enemy units are not programmed to go after Haltese soldiers. They're programmed to go after us, and they'll only fight the Haltese soldiers if they're in the way. So that's convenient. So by sending all my force in one spot, most of the enemies come here, and I just fight my way through them, and they'll kill a couple. They'll kill one, actually, over the course of this one, and that's it. This other guy didn't quite make it far enough because I give him the order. So playing this map optimally is one of the things that I've been really struggling with ever since I first started speedrunning this game. I'm constantly shifting things and coming up with different ways of doing it. I'm mostly trying to, for the longest time, I just spread out and tried to save as many people as I could to make sure they wouldn't die, but eventually I figured out that it's easy to prevent. And instead now I'm trying to use them since I know they won't die easily, I'm trying to use them as a distraction as much as I can, or at least as a wall to prevent certain enemies from fighting me. And so it's trying to find a balance between potentially getting too many Haltese soldiers killed and getting... boy, this is another one who's decided to be a hero. There we go. And so it's trying to find a balance between getting certain but not enough of the Haltese soldiers killed by getting them engaged by the Mileta soldiers. And this is kind of the main compromise I've come with on any percent. You can see how weird some of these weapon styles are, like the dagger here, which has bombs with it. Another thing I haven't talked about, but which has actually come up a couple times already, is that ring outs in Chronicles of the Sword If you're familiar with Soulcalibur at all, ring outs are instant victory. That's the easy way to win anything, and the main focus of most normal speedruns in other Soulcalibur games is to get as many ring outs as possible because, of course, they end the fight the fastest. However, units have been hit by a ring out and then the battle resets and they survive. So in Chronicles of the Sword only, the rest of Soulcalibur 3 functions as normal. But in Chronicle of the Sword, getting a ring out does not instant kill, but it does 50% of your maximum hit points. So if you're at 50% or less health, you will die. But otherwise, your character, you'll just lose a lot of health, the battle resets, and your character gets a chance to fight again. Which is kind of convenient because it prevents you from being the victim of really, just random ring outs that sometimes happen because the ring out physics and rules decisions are wonky. Once one character gets hit by a ring out, even if the other person is a pixel or a millisecond after them, they will not suffer the ring out, and sometimes, if both go out together, the one that the AI picks seems really suspect. So not being victimized by that is generally more convenient to me than the little bit of time I lose by a higher HP fight not instantly going out.
Decisive battle.
I would really prefer to get more than 2 people caught up fighting others and not being in the right area, but it's generally what I've got right now. I'm still trying to figure out what my best time is, although the 7:22 best time I have might not actually be accurate either because I'm not super precise on splitting on time sometimes, and I'm not big on... it's not a huge thing that I worry about, so I don't...
Sorry, but I must move on.
It's harder to remember my shortcut key press to skip a split and I waste more time trying to figure that out generally. A few times I have done it rather than just hitting the split and moving on. So some of my splits are a little bit wonky anyway. Am I going to get the text box here or... No. So it's probably going to happen when Lirage dies. So 3 of these soldiers... Okay, now I'm going to get a text box. Yep, there it is. After a certain number of enemies, of people have been defeated, regardless of who they are, you get that random text box in the middle of this mission. It's kind of annoying. I've finally gotten to the point where I can predict it, but especially because I've tried so many different tactics of trying to get through this quickly, it came at almost random times, it seemed, and so it was hard to get a handle on. And if I'm not paying attention and ready, because that's the disadvantage to the game being lax when things aren't happening, is that if something all of a sudden does happen while I'm in the middle of waiting for something to happen, something like what happened in Chronicle 4, or Chronicle 5 rather, when I lost my minute because I fought an extra battle on the bridge because I wasn't paying attention to the fact that my character was actually going to conquer it in time. This is a good run though. Oh. First battle against Heil, the commander-in-chief of the Maleta forces. We fight him 3 scenarios in a row. He's really annoying and generally gets harder and more annoying every battle for various reasons, partially because the defensive mission of his stronghold upgrades. So that was pretty easy, which is good. Usually he isn't too bad, but Heil is a guy who has a very good chance of going into hero mode and just owning me at any point, no matter what. Which, of course, is very frustrating, but that one went well. That's going to get me back some time finally, which is good since I've lost significant time 3 Chronicles in a row. So Aelion, who's the leader of these Haltese forces, now joins our army. You can get her killed and she'll still join your army. She's a set character, so she joins via the storyline. There are 2 other named characters, Lirage, who actually died, and Canon, who is the one I rescued, who will join your party if you rescue them. So now Maleta has signed a alliance with the Dalkia forces. And so now we have to fight both green and yellow. Now, if you remember, the last time we left Dalkia, we conquered most of their country, and good old Abilia was supposed to be taking them on. But she was supposed to be finishing them off, rather. But apparently she isn't doing her job, because she has allowed Dalkia to send reinforcements to help out Mileta and give them an alliance. So we're going to find out what happened to her in a few Chronicles. But it is good to remember that Dalkia was on its last legs when we last left them. So naturally, the person who has come to lead the forces of Dalkia here in Mileta is Luna. She volunteered because she wants to get revenge on us. Now, there's an interesting amount of awareness and lack of awareness in who Luna is fighting. She doesn't remember who she fights, ever, but she knows who she's fighting currently. So, once I take my first stronghold, she and her troops, her 4 cluster Pendo came with her, they're all going to advance on my stronghold here. They're stuck inside that stronghold there. They're the 5 people in that stronghold to the right. And they come and attack. And if your main character is not inside this stronghold and they conquer it, so they start a final battle, she will say, "Out of the way, you're not the one I want," because she wants to kill the main character. That's who she's going to be going after the entire time. But it doesn't matter if you fought her the entire time with another character instead. She only cares about the main character and feels that you are her true destined rival. Just a little interesting thing there. So now we have this other conversations because of that. All offering in their own things. Okay, now, this is another Chronicle where things are slightly off and have been slightly different over time because of different decisions I made. This is another Chronicle where, because of the fact that we have to defeat Luna and her 4 cluster Pendo, they made that a requirement by simply requiring us to defeat all enemies. So, once again, it's storyline based. They don't want us to cheese through this Chronicle without fighting Luna or Cluster Pemdo, but they can't, because she's only the secondary character, not, Mileta is the actual people we're fighting. She isn't going to stay inside the stronghold. They did an interesting way of manipulating it. So, because of that, we have to defeat all enemies, and so that means we have to spread out and deal with the interesting little quirks of this map. And the weird AI streaks. Now, the AI, as far as I can tell, is not in any way random. Not true. It is entirely based on your actions. They're all programmed to do certain things. And your actions can change that, but sometimes it's in very subtle ways. Most of the movement around the map is pixel-based, kind of as it is. And arriving in a certain pixel first, or with a certain number of characters, can totally change. That's rare. It's not common for me to lose any of these fights at all. But Agi and Elo and Hildo both decided to be high damage variance characters. That's very odd. I'm not really worried because that's so rare. I can't imagine it happening again. It could, I guess, theoretically, but the good news is it's going to give Cyan a chance to gain some levels, and I don't really need Chrono all that much, so it's not going to lose me that much time.
Battle 5. Fight.
And if this goes extremely well, I can still actually make up time if it goes the way I'm hoping it will. And, if the rest of the fights go better. Ring outs always save a little bit of time each, even when they don't instant kill. Just getting rid of that many hit points. Pretty good.
Final battle. Fight. Now.
And look at that.
Fight. Now.
I'll accept you.
Unfortunately, the 17 base Create-a-Soul styles do not get a taunt command, which I find very sad. So I have to come up with something else to do with the rest of the time after I've won with the Swordmasters. It makes me... I almost want to do a meme no Swordmaster run, although I probably just use Samurai with Katana because it's so good otherwise. But I mean something like an only Souls of Styles run, just so I could taunt every battle or something. It's why my primary subscription emote is called MSK Taunt. Okay, now we're doing weird things, as I kind of thought. This is good, though. This is actually quite good.
Decisive battle.
Alright, now this isn't the very best, but I think I'll take it. I should only have... Well, no, I guess I'll have 3. There's that person down below. I didn't spot him. If I wait a proper amount of time before advancing my main character to that spot that I advanced her to, it manipulates the AI best. I wonder if I need to maybe pull back a second character instead. Be my main character there.
Fight.
Did I do it? You can't get that.
Every time I do this Chronicle, I try to come up with a better idea of how to do things, and I do something accidentally bad or random, and somehow that should not have hit me. And then somehow something better comes. So then I think I have a really good idea, and it's going to work better, and because of the deliberately doing the decisions that I do a little bit earlier, it causes the AI to act in an entirely different, unpredictable way.
Battle 4.
I need to come up with, I still am trying to eventually, if I play this enough, I'll come up with a consistent, super consistent, good way of doing it. I had one, I thought, and then it went even better because of a random mistake I made. Or a very slight decision that I forgot about what exactly I was doing with one character, and what I chose to do with them then changed the whole complexion of this battle. One of the nice fun things, though, is that I'm still finding little things, and if I can just get everything to work well enough, I can get a really good PB. And eventually, if everything turns out well enough, I'll get a sub 3, which is my pretty much probably final goal for this, and the fastest I'll ever get it. Eventually, I think I can get a sub 3 on 80%, but not going to be able to get too much lower, I don't think, simply because of the hardware. Unless I was ever able to find some sort of weird skip or something, which I'm unlikely to, because I just don't play the game that way. Okay, you don't need to attack that. You go ahead and come to here. You go ahead and battle that. Makes this Chronicle kind of fun because I have to constantly adjust on the fly. These maps are not entirely accurate either on the location of some of these strongholds. It almost looks like there's a path that could be taken around the one stronghold that my main character is attacking, but you can't. Both of the paths from the north end terminate in the stronghold, and then you'd have to go beyond it to go down one of the other paths, so can't go around, or that would be a potential possibility. Okay, I can finally leave her alone because she's not going to be able to fight anyone else. Chrono returned to the battle. I could have had him closer to the battle, but I don't really need him. This is another point where going too fast would make the game go slower. I already have 2 people attacking this stronghold, which even this might be too much, because this is a knight and moving so slow. I want her to enter the stronghold before I take it, so that that will, you know, enable me to fight all 3 characters at once and have only one load versus multiple loads. Okay, this might be enough, but she has to go deceptively far into the stronghold before she joins it. Usually. You did right there then. That's different. I'm pretty sure that I've seen him go a lot bigger, more in before. Oh well, doesn't matter. It works.
Decisive battle.
Okay, have about a minute to finish up. This is probably going to be close to a wash, and still could have been slightly better if I hadn't suffered that death with Chrono. Depending on how these fights go, of course, but they should go fine. Now, the enemy gets all unblockable here. If you're familiar with Soulcalibur at all, you know that flaming weapons means the attack is unblockable. So the mission here is that all the enemies' attacks are unblockable. Luckily, they do have some sort of extremely clever programming. They have a much less likely chance to be highly aggressive in these strongholds, which is very good, because if the enemy chooses to be aggressive when they're all unblockable, they're unstoppable. You can't block or try and set up. You can try and you'll have to either come up with some sort of split-second dodge. I don't think you can guard break, but I'm not good enough, or guard impact rather. I've never been good enough at guard impact to try it, but mostly see Hyle's just dodging around. He did a counterattack, but that was it. That was very unfortunate. Come on. I'm trying to get him to ring out, but I shouldn't actually, because Hyle has a weapon that makes him harder to ring out. That's one of his properties. He's not impossible to ring out.
Do you see now? You never stood a chance.
Oh, that death with Chrono hurt more than I thought. Too bad. But he's not impossible to ring out, but he is a lot harder to ring out than most enemies would be. So still going to be close to 2 minutes behind here. Well, I still have quite a lot of potential time saves, but we'll see. Alright. Alright, so final battle against Moletta. We're going to learn the secret of Moletta and why they suddenly revolted and had this big army. That was very bad menu. Not my best. Trying to remember if 5 was the correct number for a second. Because naturally you can... Each of your characters has a different position on the battlefield, but you can... Now let's see how this one works. This is another one that, this little part right here is, again, something I struggle with because I, through very minor choices and possibly a little bit of RNG, determines entirely different possible paths for 2 of these enemies. So I'm just charging straight up the middle. I have 2 enemies who will not move out of this stronghold. 2 bosses I have to fight, including Heil 3 and the King of Moletta, Demuth. But this guy here, Oryx, as well as the knight who's inside of this stronghold, Anaretta, have 2 possible things that they can do. They can either charge forward around my guys in order to advance and assault my strongholds, or they can fall back to defend. I want them to move forward to assault me because they won't take my main stronghold. They aren't programmed to attack that far, and it gets them out of the way so they don't fight me. However, they may choose to run and defend the main stronghold instead. Oryx usually runs forward. Nanaretta usually falls back to defend, but if I'm really lucky, both will go forward. Oryx did, which is normal. Nanaretta, I think, is going to run back to defend. I'm not sure how, what position I've been in that has caused her to decide to advance instead of trying to defend. It's some kind of weird... I'm not quite sure what triggers it. I'm pretty certain it's not exactly RNG, but sometimes there's a small amount of RNG with your troops after they've completed an objective, like defeating an enemy or a stronghold and then moving through it. There's a little bit of an RNG on what order they shuffle through. No matter how which orders I give them, or it might be the order they show up. I'm not quite sure. But I have somehow manipulated it before so that Anaretta goes forward, and I prefer that again, because I only have to fight 2 here instead of 3. That saves time. Less people you fight, the better. That's pretty basic. But this is one of the more annoying strongholds in the game because it has a powerful thing called offense down. Demuth is a weak character with low hit points despite being a boss and low defense, but you can see I'm doing pretty low damage to him. You'll see I'll do even more chip damage to Heil and Anaretta coming up with a lot better defense. So because of the offense down mission here, your defense is greatly reduced. Luckily, none of them are super great AI against the Dancer, so this is actually the fight where I was utterly convinced that Dancer was a good idea. When I first started running, I just had 5 Swordmasters with Katana. I knew that the Soul of Xianghua was very powerful and was capable of this. I've used it before. I played around with almost everything and discovered that this was unstoppable, but I was afraid to use it in the speedrun at first because I thought it would be a bit too fragile. I knew that it was a glass cannon. That's the word I've been looking for the past couple weeks. I've been running this and keep forgetting. It's a glass cannon type of character who goes down super easy. And I wasn't impressed with it at first either, for just those reasons. It was a bit too easy to die. I was taking too much. But then this fight is really awful with Swordmasters. The Heil especially is really, really good at blocking, and since you're doing chip damage, it just takes forever to get through it. It's not super easy to lose. That is super unusual, but he stood up and kicked fast enough to interrupt. That almost never happens. But it just takes forever to take him down. But once you get the stun lock on him, it's almost permanently engaged, really easy to keep going. So it takes him down really, really fast comparatively. Now here is the incredibly good new strat I came up with that makes this fight go, the rest of this mission go a lot faster. Oh, not quite yet. First we have to do part 1. So now that I've taken this stronghold, the enemy is going to send in a huge amount of troops to try and take it back. It's dangerous and scary. So we're going to defend it. Pretty natural, right? Now here's a weird, quirky characteristic of the game. Now, despite the fact that we're moving on pixels, the game is divided up into squares on this tactical map. And only 5 units can occupy a square. And of course, units of opposing factions cannot occupy the same square. You may have noticed when units are running towards each other that some of them will run forward and then stop and wait for the enemy who's approaching them to reach a certain position before they'll start attacking. They'll just stand there and they can't do anything. Because the enemy is already entering the next square, so they can't enter it until the enemy's gone. And they can't start fighting until the enemy is in position.
Battle 1.
And that little quirk in the gameplay influences my decisions on this map. 5 units, again, is the most that you can put into a particular square. I don't know why they programmed it that way, but they did. However, there are 8 units coming to attack the stronghold. Now, you can fight more than 5 units at once, especially in a stronghold, if the enemies are coming from multiple directions. But they can only have a maximum of 5 in any one road square right outside a stronghold attacking it. You may also notice that I delay a little bit before starting a battle until I'm certain that everybody has landed a hit on the stronghold, because even if they're in the middle of swinging, if you start a battle and they haven't actually hit the stronghold and dealt damage to it, they don't count as attacking the stronghold and they won't be part of the battle. It's an annoying thing that's lost me 30 seconds here or there over the course of my speedrunning career of this game. So, if I were to allow the other 3 units to come up and attack this stronghold as well, they would actually just stand back behind and not do anything until the other 5 ahead had been defeated, or the stronghold were taken, and then they could start advancing through once the other 5 had already started advancing, kind of thing. So I wait until the first 5 are here and then engage them, and then I'll deal with the final 3 afterwards. And I actually have a brand new strat to deal with those 3 that saves probably half a minute or more, usually, depending on combat mode. But, oh, do not go into a full defensive posture. Very annoying when they do that. And so you can block. It's a guard break attack, but it's not unblockable. And sometimes they will just decide they're going to keep up a standing guard, and then there's not really much you can do about it. Until you decide to do a different action. Or eventually they'll get bored with blocking, but you never know what they're going to do after that. So it's the most frustrating and time-losing thing that they can do against the Dancer, other than slaughtering me before I get a chance to start the spin to win, of course. So annoying that I took that bit of damage there, but it's not super bad. I have to wait for all these death scenes. If Namco ever wants to watch my speedruns and ever listens to this, please give us, I want 2 things. I want a remaster of Soulcalibur 3. You can see how much damage I'm taking versus how much I've dealt. Not only because it's 3-on-1, but again, because I'm a bandit and taking that much damage. Give me a remaster of Soulcalibur 3 on PS4 or Steam, so that I can, Xbox One as well, other people will love that too, so that we can have more people influence this game, we can have faster loads, I can speedrun this quicker. And number 2, give us a Chronicles of the Sword standalone Soulcalibur game. One focused especially around creating characters and doing Chronicles of the Sword. That would be awesome. This is just about, this game mode specifically is my favorite game of all time. I think I've played it more than anything. Poured thousands of hours of, holy cow, that was not good. That was a huge amount of damage. Okay, now once again I came with a brand new strategy, and I've used it once and it was great, and now it's backfiring. I'm in very rare danger of dying here.
Want to die that badly?
Twice, which would be very time-losing again. Okay, we're fine. This is losing a little bit of time, but I'm not dead, so that's okay. I am almost certain to die in one of these next 2 fights, though. This is not good. And it's going to ruin the whole thing here. So usually, what I usually did was just waited for them to try and approach, which was fine. It made the fights easy because once you're defending it, the offense down works for you instead of against you, so they didn't do as much damage to me. I wasn't convinced until that moment that it was that big a deal, but just that huge amount of damage she did that she wouldn't normally do. Almost 2/3 of my life in one hit. Again, that's how weak dancers are. Even at the level I'm at, that's pretty incredible. Darn, not quite. So Chronicles is another person who starts a fight with you rather than waiting for you to start the fight with him or engaging, which is fine. But of course, he's very vicious, very heavy attack, so he has a good chance of toasting me as well since my hit points are so low. Again, that's the glass cannon dangerous nature of playing these. Got him, and getting a little bit of health back for safety. I might survive a couple hits against Chester.
It looks like I got lucky.
I need to do that more. It does tend to work a little bit better, but pulling back at the very start of a fight throws off the AI and makes them not as aggressive. Normally, when I move forward, especially when your health is low, normally the AI does tend to get a little bit more aggressive. That's one of the things that makes the AI quote-unquote good. Okay, I'm going to lose a little bit there, but I'd still gain some more time on this stronghold, provided I don't lose to Chester. Final boss. So we killed Demuth back there. We've been skipping through the text here, but this guy called Chester, or question mark, has been telling Demuth that he's no longer needed, and only had Heil and everyone around. They apparently killed Mooncalf off camera as well, after we fought her twice. Mooncalf, by the way, is actually a low-key important person to the story. She's Luna's mother, we find out. She was a noble of Haltise when it was a kingdom, and then the peasants overthrew it, similar to the French Revolution in history, and all the nobles, of course, those who weren't killed, were in exile or disappeared, and Mooncalf lost her daughter in that power struggle. And apparently she was found and raised by Dalkia. But based on her dying words of Luna, there are similar styles and a few other interesting little tidbits in the game it gives, depending on what characters you use. You do learn, kind of similar to how you learn in Final Fantasy VI, that low-key Shadow is Realm's father. It's actually really similar in this story, how they do that. So here's the mastermind of everything, Chester.
All right. Surprised? Well, it's just as you see. I must protect this country. I had this brilliant plan of pitting Grandal and Dalkia against one another, and then rise to power during the resulting chaos. But because of your unexpected meddling, my plan is in ruins. You will pay dearly for this.
Battle 1. Fight.
And that's the disadvantage. If I pull back too far, I'm not in range. So I am going to have that death. That's going to lose me a little bit of time. Oh well.
Battle 2. Fight.
Chester has decided to be a hero. Usually he's pretty easy, but he's a boss who occasionally decides he's just going to be dominating. Again, super rare for him to even do this much to a Swordmaster, but whatever.
You are not worthy to challenge me.
So we've defeated Chester and ended his big plot. And now we have to deal with Dalkia, who we left Abilia with before. Yeah, my previous Chronicle 10 was so bad, I'm still not really losing any time over that, at least. It's about coming in about... Now, this is where I'm almost guaranteed a death. Luckily, it's not going to be to my main character, though, because I know that my main character will die. So, now we have to... This Chronicle is the same pretty much for everyone. The only difference is maybe how much experience you have. No Soulcalibur characters here. There's Sung Mina, my favorite Soulcalibur character, was the character in the last mission. She was on Ice, an Ice Stronghold, which actually makes her the worst Soulcalibur character, because Ice is that bad. So she's also the one I hate the most in Chronicles of the Sword because just her mission is so terrible. Not doing good menuing to start with, but oh well. We have to fight our way through the Cluster Pendo in order, and now their elemental properties have been upped to the max. They each have a unique mission in their stronghold that is a combination of 2 other missions, many of which we haven't even seen yet. For instance, Cruel Sword is Loopy, the Fires of Hell, as she calls herself, the Flames of Hell.
Decisive battle.
They give her all unblockable. It eventually goes, yeah, Chester's hair goes white. I don't think he dyes it. I think that because of his near-death experience, his hair went white. I think that's the implication, but I don't know. But they change his hair to white later on. Yeah, we haven't seen the last of Chester.
Battle 1. Fight.
The other effect here is Blast, which means that knockback attacks are supposed to knock back more. It doesn't really work properly. It's a little inconsistent. Some of the times it just causes the attack to do extra damage instead. So it's a little weird, but Loopy isn't all that hard. She's an easy first test. And of course, once again, her stronghold is on fire because she's supposed to be the fire elemental. Next up is Healdo, the Waters of Origin. So, once again, this is, I think, our last time, actually, we will have to deal with ice, luckily. I have to deal with it a lot more in SC percent because of... largely because of Sungmina. That fight is the really nasty ice one. But she has Sacred Field, which is ice plus Cure. Which Cure, of course, we've seen before. It's not a big deal. Her health comes back slowly, but it's, you know, it doesn't matter that much. Whatever. So she isn't very hard either. The first 3 are not hard at all. They always can. Healdo is really weird because she fluctuates between being the very easiest AI and the most aggressive of all the AI, so very occasionally she'll turn it on and just totally trash me, but none of the others are ever aggressive enough to really pose a danger. But most of the time, she's also the one who most commonly goes down without a fight, despite it being on ice. Looks like she's decided to be nice today. So, easy peasy. Perfect.
It looks like I won today, but who knows what'll happen next time.
But next up is Elua. She is the Wind of Creation. So her stronghold mission is called Holy Wings. It's a combination of Whirlwind, which we saw briefly before, and Aerial Wind, which we will never see anywhere else in the game. Aerial Wind is a very interesting and annoying property that most of the time it doesn't matter, but when it does, it's super frustrating in a speedrun, because if you get hit by a knock-up attack, something that lifts you up into the air, you go floating way high up into the air and hang there for several seconds before coming down. Obviously, it's bad for speedrunners because it's slow. But it almost doesn't matter as part of this stronghold because Elua uses the Kunai skill, which only has like 2 attacks that knock into the air anyway, and she almost never uses them. So I have seen the effect once in the thousands of times I've played this game. So, if you see it, it's a rare thing. Annoying, but rare and cool, and even in marathons. You know, I've run this in many marathons, and haven't seen it happen that often. But the Whirlwind is much worse because it's so strong. So you can see I missed there, because the Whirlwind pushed me away from it. If she gets up, she will get up into me, or if the Whirlwind is in the right position, but it's a lot more annoying than normal. Luckily, she is really, really bad AI, and is almost always easy to defeat without too much trouble. But the next one is the real trouble. Her AI is still awful, but it doesn't matter because she has the worst mission in the game. Literally, this is the hardest mission in the entire game. Impregnable she is the Earth of Foundation. So the Earth element, of course, last one here. And Impregnable is a combination of Quake and Guardian Force, which we haven't seen yet. Guardian Force means that she is unaffected by attacks. Whether she blocks, whether she gets hit, she isn't stunned. She is pretty much untouchable. She will take damage, but she won't get any of the stun for it, which means that you can't do any stun lock combos. You can't do anything. All you can do is mash buttons and hope that she takes enough damage, but because she doesn't get stunned by anything, she can attack right through your attack and score a counter hit, because you're doing an attack when she's doing it. At worst, she can block and take no damage from it, and then hit you before you can recover because she doesn't even get guard stun. It's really awful.
One. Fight.
To make it worse, she has this quake effect. When it finishes counting down, if I'm standing, I get hit by a quake. Luckily, if I'm already on the ground or in the middle of getting hit, it doesn't affect me. But luckily, her stats are bad, and she damages herself with her weapon. And you can see just how awful that is. I use this attack because if I time it right, it puts me in the air, so I avoid the quake effect, like so. And it tends to lift me above her, so that sometimes her attacks miss and does decent damage when she doesn't block it. That was actually a pretty good fight. I have, I think, only once over the course of my speedrunning career beaten her without losing a character. And it's impossible with the Dancer, which is another reason why I don't have all Dancers, because all Dancers would not be able to beat her. They just wouldn't have the stats. You can't stun lock her. The rest of the abilities, you could spam regular kinds of attacks, but your hit points are just so weak that you would die too easily while waiting. Okay, there we go. That wasn't too bad. That second fight was a little bit rough, but I'll take it. If I lose once, that's good. 2 is kind of bad. 3 is really awful. I think that's happened to me like once before. And again, I've only ever gotten without it just once, so it's a pipe dream. If ever I can get it, I really hope that the rest of my run has gone perfectly so I can get an absolutely awesome PB. I haven't even, it's only happened on SC %, where I have more levels because I've been fighting the Soulcalibur characters as well. And that might be the whole reason. It might be just about impossible with my setup unless I get ridiculously lucky in any percent. So now we just have Luna left. She's changed her outfit to make herself look more imposing. She's gotten a new weapon, which she's going to show off to us. But she isn't really very hard. Reserve offense up can be bad if I get unlucky. Reserve offense up is a weird name, but it means that her offense goes up. Her damage goes up, in other words, as she gets lower in health. So if I get her down to almost dying, but I don't finish her off, she will be able to kill me in about 3 hits. So we want to avoid that, of course. Hopefully I'll be able to get a string on her. So actually getting her ring out but not killing her with it is kind of bad, because if I can't get the setup immediately, she will attack me. Oh yeah, look, she has Soulcalibur. She wants to show it off to us. I have Soulcalibur too, you know.
This sword.
Soulcalibur and Soul Edge do feature into the story, kind of. Because it's a Soul Edge Soulcalibur game, they decided they had to have the 2 swords, even in this fictionalized continent, which takes place maybe on Earth, not really on Earth.
I'm sorry, but I must
apparently it has the same kind of pseudo-history that it does in the regular Soulcalibur game. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Whatever. But, so we defeat her, defeat Soulcalibur, don't think much of it, move on. It isn't the end of Luna, though. We will see her again. We won't fight her again, but we will see her again, which is kind of important for the story. Interestingly, if you bring Gerardo to that fight, before the fight starts, he'll start a conversation with her and ask her about Mooncalf, if he knows, because it seems like he's figured out that Mooncalf was Luna's mother as well, but Luna doesn't know anything about that and just attacks us. Now here's another one that I've been trying out new strategies for. Let's see how well I work them out. Fine. Actually, we'll do it that way. Okay, there are a lot of enemies on this map, and just simply to prevent myself from losing, I generally have to defeat all of them. Chrono, go back to defend. I want to, of course, my main objective is to minimize the amount... this is actually kind of bad. I don't know, maybe it'll be okay. My main objective is to minimize the amount of different battles I have to fight. So again, I'm not taking these strongholds as fast as I could. Now a couple of them will come this way, and some of them will go to the main stronghold, so... Alright. Just those 2.
Battle 1. Fight.
One of the nice things about some of these road battles is you get rafts like this with the really small stages, where you can get really easy ring outs to do a lot of damage, especially to high defense targets. Makes the fights go a lot faster when you get those ring outs, of course.
Final battle. Fight.
That's one of the nice things about the katana is that shoulder charge into spitting kick really sets up well for ring outs, especially in big easy ring out stages like the river raft here. All the stages are, of course, it's kind of neat. Each square of the map, I guess, including specifically strongholds, have a specific map chosen for them from the basic Soulcalibur map. Sadly, they didn't make any ones unique for Chronicles of the Sword. They're all stages you'll see playing Tales of the Souls or any of the other modes in Soulcalibur 3, but they are a little bit different. Okay, very, very nice. All right. Rest of you guys. Oh, no, I shouldn't bother because I can't do that because your commands end whenever you start a Soulcalibur battle. But it's the only thing that ends your commands. So you can send commands for people to take multiple strongholds at once, and if they're empty, no problem. But if they happen to be ones with...
Battle 1. Fight.
This guy's being really mean.
You can't get away.
Yeah, if they decide to just be offensive. There are a few things I try that can oftentimes buy me the time to do a spin to win, but there's nothing guaranteed. So once I get the spin to win, it's 99% guaranteed to be able to beat the enemy, but setting up into it is so rough. Still, it's nice to have. Most of the other Soulcalibur games don't have any kind of attacks that are that reliably easy to be able to defeat. I'm wondering if I should not use my main character actually for... Yeah, we'll have Simon do it. Get him a few more levels. Let her actually stay and generate some health in there. If she isn't fighting most of the main battles, she won't really need it, but still better to do so. Okay, hopefully I'll be able to fight all these guys at once, although it looks like I might not. And here is also potential to lose 5 minutes, because if these guys are able to defeat me, which they're actually much more likely to. These guys are really actually good at being aggressive and stopping my... Oh, it looks like I got all of them. Good. So this is my main stronghold, so if they defeat my one guy here, I lose the Chronicle, and I'll have to start it over, and therefore lose about 6-ish minutes, 7-ish minutes, probably after all the fights are over. But it does save the most time, if I don't do it, by letting all of them fight me at once, rather than
Battle 1.
fighting it up. And so because they're from multiple sides, of course, I have 6 characters here instead of just 5. But it's generally a lot safer with the katana, even though it's not quite as fast most of the time. If I get lucky with ring outs, though, it will be pretty fast.
Battle 2. Fight. Fight.
And a lot of XP for Chrono, which is good. I don't need the XP a whole lot, but it never hurts to have more stats, especially for the very final battle on my Sword Masters.
Battle 3. Fight.
Okay, looks like this is going to be fine.
Battle 4. Fight. Fight.
I'm only going to have 3 more battles loaded after this as well, which is pretty nice. So I have a really good chance of saving quite a bit of time on this mission. the things are going right. Got it. And finally, Chronicles. If a boss is not... there are a few very consistent things that aren't totally 100% consistent, but one of the 100% consistent things is that if a character is in a cutscene, even if they are considered a boss, they will be the first enemy you face. If they have a cutscene associated with them, you'll see the cutscene when you fight them, and they'll be the first character you face. Otherwise, usually those characters have a boss kind of flag attached to them, and that makes them the last person that you fight in the battle. Chronicles is one of those. He's an important character. Once again, if I were to go out and meet Chronicles in the field, I think he would auto-start the fight with me. He doesn't want to let you cheese him by possibly defeating him in field combat. That doesn't matter since they attack my main stronghold. And that's all the threat. The other two characters off to the left and right are Soulcalibur characters, Raphael and Cassandra, so I won't be fighting them since this is not SC%. So I don't have to worry about them. Don't have to worry about anyone else taking my stronghold. So now I can just join the rest of the troops moving forward. And once again, I'm only going to be advancing one character out of that stronghold once I take it, so that I don't have to give orders multiple times. Even though I'm losing time that I could be moving forward by standing still, it doesn't waste as much time as it does to have to freeze the game for 4 characters and give them multiple orders at various times. Having a better idea of who I use, by default usually my dancer, going forward, saves more time as well, but I didn't want to do the dancer this time because my dancer is close to dead, and I could instead gain a bunch of life while waiting anyway. Your characters do regenerate when they're inside a friendly stronghold, equal to 2% of their maximum health, rounded off. So if it's 4.99, they'll only gain 4. Okay, so here's Cyan. This Cavalier will charge forward to engage me. So I'll start the fight with them. And then I only have 2 more total fights. 3 total enemies to fight, but 2 separate battles after this. Depending on how you define battle, fight, whatever. Because they count each of these fights between specific characters as battles, so technically that's that. But... she was too slick to allow me to ring her out. One of the things about my spinning jump kick is it does push away, but it pushes off towards the left. So if they've moved around so that the ring out is on their right, or on my right rather, right of my character, I can't ring them out with a spinning jump kick, and it'll just push them further away anyway, so I have to try something else. Okay, now these other cavalry will move to engage me, and Rowan, we finally get to fight Rowan, the head general of Dalkia, who was also present in 5, but who we skipped out on by trapping him away from the main stronghold because he decided to leave it for whatever reason. But like Chronicles and Luna and several others, he does not want to let you fight him in the field. So as soon as he reaches me, he'll automatically start the fight. And since I'm already engaged with this other character, I'll fight them both at once. So it's a nice little time save there that he does that for me. And so that's why I delay every other character, so that once again I don't have to give the orders all over again. Just minimize that time lost for loading up so many extra command menus.
Battle 1. Fight. Now.
The shoulder charge is one of the weirder abilities. It's there are certain enemies that are really, really good at blocking it. Most of them aren't, and it leads to really good and powerful juggles, which is combined with the power of the Mirasame, both in the damage it deals and the life drain you get, and the high stats of the Swordmaster, is why it is the next best thing to the Dancer for pretty much the entire game. Now, when I'm fighting, there are 2 more Guardian Forces I have to fight, and I played around with a few things. There's one thing you can do to Guardian Force characters that will affect them, and that is an attack throw. You can't grab them with a normal throw, but if you hit them with a weapon that follows an attack that follows up into an attack throw, the attack throw will engage, provided they aren't blocking or whatever. all the properties, some of them have to, most of them actually have to be on counter hit, so it does have to be in a weird counter hit formation, but sometimes I can get those. I've tried swapping to weapon styles that make it a lot easier to do attack throws in an effort to get those to defeat them, but it still tends to be just slower than hacking at them with the katana due to its just sheer power, getting me a little more time with the little bit of life drain I get. Just overall, it's just not worth the time to swap, since it also freezes the game while I have to swap weapons, and then I have to swap back after the battle's done anyway. It kind of makes me sad, because it would be neat for the speedrun route if I did have to swap weapons, but anyway, here's Aurelia, the Queen of Dalkia, the final boss of the Dalkia arc. And she is the most pathetic final boss ever. I have lost to her exactly once, when my character was almost dead anyway, so I have a very small chance of losing, because my character is quite wounded. But she is generally, and as I say, any character at any time can decide to take over a battle and just be super aggressive and win. But Aurelia is so weak that even when she tries to, most of the time it doesn't matter. I'm at the stage where if she goes ultimate offense and chooses just the right attacks, she could probably kill me.
So,
But the odds of this
you've
happening
come.
are very, very low.
Worthless
By the way, that
city
line,
strife,
"So you've come,"
you shall pay with your
second time in a
blood.
row we've heard it. Luna said the same thing to us, and we'll hear it once more before this is over. It's like the
Battle 1.
hot
Fight.
duel situation there. Okay, so he started the 1%, but nope, didn't get the full thing. 3 hits is all it takes to finish him. And that's,
really
you
give
know,
up.
whatever.
I'm sorry, but I must
Very good
move on.
Chronicle 11, despite the horrible damage they dealt to me there. And that's it, or Chronicle 12. That's the end of Dalkia. So all of our enemies have been subjugated. There's no one left but Grandal, so game's about to be over, right? After all, you can't fight a war without somebody to fight. Well, as it turns out, a year has passed. We are now the general in charge of the entire Grandal army because of our heroics in winning 3 wars. 2.5, kind of. But now, General Gerardo has declared a rebellion. He started up a rebellion, he's declared independence, whatever. He's leading rebels, represented by the color purple, against Grandal, and we've been appointed as head of the army as the anti-Grandal task force, with wonderfully loyal Abelia as our second in command again. Additionally, this really is a sucky Chronicle casually because they just took away all the soldiers you had otherwise. Gerardo, Jing, of course, because he's leading the enemy, Jinkai, Aelion, Laraje, Canon, even the guys who've been with you since the very, 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 very start, like Aeneas and Reese, are gone. And so you're stuck with 3 new characters, 2 of which are really awful. And Abelia, who generally is one of the worst characters anyway. So if you haven't been leveling up your own characters, luckily they can't take away your created characters, so if you've got them, no problem. Therefore, it doesn't affect us in the speedrun. But if you've largely been following the story more and relying on your story-based NPC characters rather than your own creations, this can be a really, really sucky Chronicle. Luckily, we don't have to worry too much about that, and this is another Chronicle that's really mean on SC percent, but not quite so bad on any percent, because there are 3 Soulcalibur characters here that we'd have to fight. And you saw that southern dead-end path on the map. 2 of the Soulcalibur characters are down that path, and they're in the same battle, the same stronghold, so you have to face them at the same time, which is tough. It's tough enough to defeat a level 60 boss with your low-level characters. It's even tougher when you have to do 2 of them at once. So it also takes up a lot of time, because that's a person totally not involved in doing what you actually need to do to win the Chronicle, which is, what the rest of your people are generally doing. That's what you want to devote your time to. You also have Maxi off to the left here from this stronghold. We would go that way if we were paying SC percent as well, so we could fight him, and he's an all-unblockable. He is, however, a bit of a wimp. So now, this is a rather interesting little trick I have to do here to try and at least eliminate one fight from happening. 2 total. Now, there's a total of 3 guys here I don't think I have to fight, besides the Soulcalibur characters. Well, and then those 2 as well. But just in this part. There's one character in particular that I can avoid fighting. I wonder when that happened. That really stinks. Oh well, it's probably not going to be a good one anyway. My recording just failed for some reason, but it seems that my streaming is still going fine. Whatever.
2, battle 1.
I may have accidentally hit it, I guess, when we're looking at it. I think that happened. Oh well. So I won't have a local recording. Doesn't really matter.
You should really. It looks like
I don't do a clean local recording like some streamers do, like My Hero Poexel. He does a local recording with XSplit that's clean and doesn't have his camera or splits in it. Because he thinks that's more interesting to have and to look at sometimes. Okay, Cyan it is because he's the one I got. I just need to do this as soon as possible. I need to fortify this up so the enemy won't be able to take it, so I don't have to fight them. And then I need to get past it so that I can fight only these 3 guys up north, rather than adding him in as well. So, and of course I don't want to bother giving any of the other guys orders because they are not... I'll just have to give them orders all over again afterwards anyway, and freeze the game to do it twice instead of just once. Whatever. Yes, this is my live. It's been an hour. Oh yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
Battle 1.
There's some really tough rebels on this map too. Gerardo has some really powerful troops that you never got to see before.
Fight.
Of course, you know it's a very basic story. It's a very super basic strategy role-playing game within a fighting game. So, they're, you know, RPGs have loads of things in them, especially JRPGs that don't conform with reality or common sense. But even so, it seems surprising that he has all these extra special elite forces that he pulled out of the woodwork that we never got to use in our army when he was helping us. And of course, Emperor Strife has a lot more too, but we'll get to that later. Another interesting tidbit I sometimes talk about is this character, Aglaia, is one of, I think, 3-4 characters in the game who has Type X hairstyle. Type X is important because there is actually a guest character in Soulcalibur 3, sort of. It's the first one, the only one since Soulcalibur 2 that doesn't have a guest character really in it. But there is sort of one, and it's Cosmos. You can make Cosmos from the Xenosaga series for female characters. You can dress them up to look exactly like Cosmos by using Type X equipment, which you will unlock and have to pay to buy in the shop after doing a large portion of the game. But because Cosmos' outfit is super distinct and very sci-fi looking as well, none of the characters in the game, the created souls that they created for, you know, this game mode, have any of those parts, except for the hair. Because, I think it's because they didn't really give us all that many good long hairstyles, actually, for some reason. There are almost no long hair at all. It's the longest hair in the game, the Cosmos hair, except for maybe the long hair Tide, which is the other super secret hair that's hard to unlock. So they went ahead and gave several of the females Cosmos hair, as I did as well with Celis, my Celis character, because it's the closest you can emulate that with. So just interesting a little bit. It might not really be worth it to even fortify that, really, since there's just one character. It's just kind of what I've always done to ensure myself, but I could probably make this go a little bit faster by cutting that out. So coming up, the final battle of this Chronicle is extremely rough and annoying because of Separate. Separate pushes you away from the enemy. Now, one of the things I haven't mentioned yet, but I usually do, is that Stronghold level, besides adding more hit points, actually it increases the potency of particular effects and how they work. At low level, the missions will affect both characters, so if you fight on a low-level Separate map, you and your opponent will be pushed away from each other. But on higher-level missions, it will only affect the person who it's supposed to affect. So, like, Cure is a positive effect, so Cure will only affect the defender on a high-level Stronghold instead of both characters, while Poison is negative, so it will only affect the attacker on a high-level Stronghold. And Separate... So either way, it's really annoying. So it pushes me constantly. You can see I'm getting pushed already. Whee! So this is very bad because my, especially for my spin to win, because you can see it just happened right there. The first time, Brunhild decided to get up forward and got hit. The second time, she got up to the side, which caused her to be pushed out of the way, so I couldn't hit her with the follow-up. However, that fight went extremely well. She did a couple of, on just the best possible fight, she'll decide to keep getting up forward and I'll keep knocking her down and the stun lock will continue. Great. But on a very bad fight, it won't. My PB, it went pretty well. So I'm not going to gain too much time back there. My bolt split was really, really good. This is where I can gain some time back through a very interesting strategy I've come up with that looks really scary, but provided I do it right, it's 100% safe. This is an interesting Chronicle. It's the first one that gives us the don't lose your main character objective. I lose if my main character dies, which is kind of threatening because I have a weak little dancer who can sometimes be easy to kill at any moment. However, there is a... this map has actually got the easiest enemies in the entire game. With the exception of Mitsurugi, Soulcalibur character in this stronghold, and Taki, who is the Soulcalibur character in this stronghold, all of the rest of the characters except the boss are generic rebels who are very weak. Not only are they only level 14, they're actually weaker in their attack and defense than many of the enemies you've been fighting in the first several Chronicles of the game when they were really low level and weak. And we generally, especially our dancer, are a lot higher level now. So these guys are really, really easy to beat. So it's not actually all that scary.
Battle 1. Fight. 3.
Yeah,
You should really give up.
really easy.
It was a decent match.
So in addition to that, your characters will always do the same amount of damage to strongholds pretty consistently, at least based on their type. So bandits always do 5 to every stronghold and 4 to every main stronghold. But yeah, just do them all because you need them. Now, will this do it? Will one of them go away? No, all 3 are attacking. That's unfortunate. This may be kind of dangerous. Alright, we're about to find out. The good news is I'm already behind, so if I lose it, it won't matter. I might have to come up with some sort of safer strategy, though, because I can't quite tell what is causing this to act the way it is. So I'm totally ignoring my main stronghold. Same rules apply as in every Chronicle. If I lose my main stronghold, I lose the game. So it may seem very dangerous to let 3 guys wail on my stronghold and totally ignore them. And it kind of is.
Fight.
But usually, I can complete this mission before they conquer it. But 3 of them might be a bit too
Battle
much.
3. Fight.
And there I've got all my health back thanks to the... When I was doing this last time, I ended up losing this mission because they took my main stronghold, because they had 3 people on it.
Fight.
But one of the things I did was leave 3 people back behind the other stronghold before. And then when I had to replay it, I did the exact same thing, but I moved all of them past as soon as I took that stronghold rather than just 1. And for some reason, only 2 of them were attacking my main stronghold. And that gives me plenty of time to do it. Who's getting up weird? So this time I tried to do the same thing as I did last time when I won the stronghold, but there's still 3 of them attacking it. So that's dangerous and potentially losing. So is it just, does playing it over again actually change their behavior? I haven't lost enough to actually test that. That's interesting. If I lose this again, I'm definitely going to have to come up with a different strategy though, because it's not going to save time to lose this once and then do it all over again. Sometimes the roads are also really hard to get with our commands. I am not trusting this. I'm probably going to lose it. I'd be a little bit more concerned if I weren't already way behind. I'm having a bad run anyway, so it's not super duper bad. But why was it working before, though? Because I knew that I could guaranteed take it no matter how scary it looked. One of the things that I did do was not wait for all 5 of them. But I did that the last time as well, and again, because only 2 were attacking, it worked out fine. I could save a little bit of time by doing that. I'm going to focus on this and see how far I get before I lose, because I'm pretty certain that they're going to take my stronghold at this point, and I really can't save it, so I'm just testing at this point. Good to test. I'm doing well over twice as much damage, and it has a lot less hit points, so that's one of the reasons why it's a possibility, even with them hitting on it. Oh, I made it. Okay, good. Alright. So it was very close and scary looking, but I managed it. Do they actually still have 3 there? Yes, they do. So just that little tiny bit of time, it is very much scary. I was just trying to save a little bit too much time, I think.
Battle 1. Fight.
I think my gold split for this mission as well is another one where I waited too long before I hit the split, although this is going to be my new gold now. Holy cow. This is awesome. This worked out exactly as it should have. So there's a bit of danger as well, but Ignis is one of the weakest bosses in the game. At level 23, he's lower level than most of the bosses we've been fighting all this time. Now, these rebels that attacked us in the middle of the night, Tina, one of our soldiers, finds them a little bit suspicious. But Abelia dismisses the fact that when we attack the camp, we realize they have a bunch of Grandal symbols and stuff, and everything is marked with Grandal. And Tina finds that suspicious, but Abelia is saying, oh, that's just, goes to show that they are... I think that's just about as close as anything. Hard to say exactly what's closest. Abelia dismisses it, saying that, oh, it's just, they are, they were Grandal citizens. They're just undecided about their loyalties, because they do care about the country. They're just going about it in the wrong way. It's sad. But we actually come back to that later. And another interesting thing about the mission is that if you've been paying a lot of attention to the storyline, you know that Strife is the name of the Emperor of Grandal. And so he was talking with Chester, who has white hair now. As Bale pointed out, he's dyed his hair white for some reason, or it's gone white or whatever, we don't know. But it was Chester, who we thought we defeated back in Chronicle 12. He's now working for the Empire of Grandal. And their statements seem to indicate that they knew about this ambush that the rebels had placed on us as well. And we'll get back to that in Chronicle 16, about what all that is about. In the meantime, I'm really proud of this strategy, and this should get me back onto PB pace. Especially if the battles actually go well. And all my menuing and stuff is just a little bit crisper. It should work out great. So this one was a struggle for me for a long time, because there are a couple points in the game where you fight particular characters, and they may join your party. And that, in both Chronicle 2 and this Chronicle, there are two characters in particular that, when you defeat them, the first one that you defeat will join your party later on. In this case, as soon as the next Chronicle. If I did this right. I wonder if I needed to start back sooner. Oh, I forgot that. Nope, this is not going to work out. Okay. I didn't do this right, so I'm going to have to do the full kit and caboodle. So one of the two characters is Failfan here. I got forgetful at the last minute, so I don't get to do the super optimal strat. Now, if you don't fight those characters, they don't have to join you. And when they do join up, they have text and stuff that's added. So it's actually double bonus in not fighting them is that not only do you not fight them then, but you don't get the text of them joining, which is pretty minor, but it saves several frames. And in this particular Chronicle, after we defeat Gerardo, and spoilers, we're going to be picking up his rebellion, this is going really awful. It's rare for this to go this awful. But after we defeat General Gerardo, we feel bad and decide to lead his rebellion, and so whoever of his commanders we defeat first, either Rudiger or Failfan, will end up joining the party. And we have this big long dialogue with them at the beginning of the next Chronicle. Now back at Chronicle 2, it's either Jinkai or Battle
3.
Or Xiaoxin is the name of the other one. And so, but when they join you, they throw a few words at General Gerardo, and that's it. It goes really quickly and doesn't make much difference. But, you know, since it's free to skip them, it was easy to do in the speedrun. If you're playing casually, you want to fight them all, and you have them to the party later, that's kind of cool. Or one of them at least. You only get one. Yay! I love it when they do that. But this one is the opposite of the last mission. I was able to make that aggressive play in the last Chronicle, and it worked because my stronghold was so much bigger than theirs. But this time it's the opposite. The enemy stronghold is much, much higher hit points than my stronghold. So I guess it's the biggest problem, the fact that I speedrun 99% of the time when streaming, and so I'm really good at remembering most of the things I want to do, have to do. But occasionally I am slightly forgetful, and this is one of those moments where the stuff I was talking about distracted me from the ideal strats I really want to get done so that I can get a new PB, because this is where I can really actually save a good bit of time if everything goes right. So what I needed to do was fortify this up before the cavalry got here. You can't fortify a stronghold that's under attack, so can't do that there. And so by timing this all correctly, I would take that stronghold, fortify it up, and then run back here, kill the first two guys, then fortify this all the way up to 3, and then be able to run back like I'm doing. And therefore I wouldn't fight anything else in this Chronicle except for General Gerardo. I can only do this strat on any percent because of the two Soulcalibur characters we've got here. Yoshimitsu. Very quickly jumped on him, and then Voldo. And doing that taking out just those first two guys, reduces the damage that my main that stronghold is taking just enough so that it holds off just long enough, along with the cavalry taking so much longer to go through that stronghold that I can take the main stronghold before they take mine. But if I don't fortify that properly, I have to go ahead and kill Failfan and his other associates, so unfortunately I'm also going to get the dialogue, which will make the next Chronicle slightly longer. Which, that's what my PB is. It's only recently that I figured out this strategy and managed to practice it a little bit and got it working. But I still haven't got a good run where I've really been able to take advantage of it. So it's a little bit sad, but oh well. At least, depending on how the Gerardo fight goes, it won't be quite so bad. And notice that, yes, I'm pretty much on regular PB pace and not faster than that, and there are 4 minutes left to reach there from just one battle. Because Gerardo is probably the worst overall fight in the game. closely tied with the very final fight against Strife. Strife's stats are outrageous, and he has a super powerful weapon, so he's hard to bring down. But at least you can get him with ring outs. Gerardo, again, is our second character with Guardian Force. So he doesn't care about anything. No Quake this time, at least. And he does damage himself with his own attacks. So he will kill himself eventually, but he has so much defense and hit points. And this is the best overall weapon for me, but it is slowly draining my life as well, even though I'm getting some back from dealing damage. But yeah, if I lose one person to Gerardo, that's very, very good. 2 is average. I think my PB was 1. It was a very good run overall. But that is what can determine the most stuff. I have never, ever beaten Gerardo with one character, and I'm not about to start now, it doesn't look like. Meliador is not doing well enough. Oh, perfect guard break. Or just impact, they call it. Yeah.
Knockout.
Oy vey. Well, luckily she is one of the lower level characters, so hopefully we can bring it back. Now, interestingly, this is also the only fight in the game where they do not automatically send your main character into the battle. I really hate throws because he doesn't damage himself with throws. Instead, I take a lot of damage on Risen Lord. Now, the good news about throws is that they are actually not determined by your stats. So he doesn't do any extra damage. Throws do a set amount of damage regardless of what your attack power is. It's something I've discovered by playing this game a whole lot. So they're not a huge amount of damage, but still, especially for my sword masters, considering their weapons are draining their own life. And the fact that it doesn't take any life for Gerardo to use them, unlike his regular swings. Gonna lose 2 there, which is bad. So I'm probably gonna lose a little bit more time on this instead of gaining any time back, which stinks, but oh well. That's about average. If I only get 1, that is very, very good.
Battle 3. Fight.
Oh wow, I actually guard impacted him with that. I've never done that before.
You are not worthy to challenge me.
Now we have, by far and away, the longest cutscene in the game, as General Gerardo gives us his dying words and then is finished off in a most surprising fashion.
Direct that power. Right now, your strength is controlled by others. Think for a moment. For whom do you wield your power? For what purpose? And against whom? You must learn to control that strength.
Come on.
yourself.
Okay, it's back. Stream apparently decided to get big problematic for a while. Oh well.
You will never become a true warrior.
Oh no, what is that? That's Soul Edge. Maybe you know that that's Emperor Strife, and Emperor Strife has Soul Edge. How amazing. What's going on? So yeah, Soul Edge and Soulcalibur are in here. Strife has Soul Edge, which they never do explain since it's a super simple story. Whether it was like Soul Edge that corrupted Strife when he found Soul Edge or something, or at what point he decided to be an evil emperor. Because apparently he was good enough, or his father was good enough, for Gerardo to serve him all his life, up to the point where he suddenly decided to rebel after they'd conquered everybody else. Still had a pretty good run. Now this is one where things often can go very wrong, and I'm really hoping that... hang on. Now, again, all of this text would actually be skipped. That's about 5 seconds of text if I had managed to do my thing right. Let's not go to the shop. I only get 3 characters here, and that always throws me off. I've had 4 or 5 since Chronicle 4. So that's more than 10 straight Chronicles. And now, not only do I not get my full 5 regiment again, which started in 13. 13 and 14 I only got 4 for this reason. Now I'm down to 3. This is far and away my least favorite Chronicle, because you only get 3 characters, and it's huge. It's not the very biggest Chronicle, but it's awful darn big for only having 3 characters. It takes forever to fight your way through all of these stupid places. So it's pretty basic otherwise, especially on any percent. The fastest thing to do is to rush forward to the end. Hopefully I don't mess up super badly.
Decisive battle.
I think I'm going to do some safer strats, which will probably end up saving me time. I still have a chance at getting a small PB here. I'd really like to be able to do my best strats and have them work properly and get a really good PB. I really think I can get sub 3 if everything breaks right, but not going to this time. The first few guys you face are super wimpy, your basic Grandal troops, but before long we're going to be running into the Grandal Elite. They are going to be high 40s, low 50s in level.
Fight.
Unique names, red outfits, of course, you know, all the basic stuff of your named powerful enemies, but just the level jump is pretty extreme from what we were just fighting. And in fact, in the next Chronicle, we'll be fighting Abilia again. She left us after we finished off Gerardo, and she is super loyal. You know, she's lawful stupid. I will follow the commands of my leaders, no matter what they are. And if you betray Grandal, you betray me as well, etc., etc. And so we'll be fighting her troops again that we fought during Chronicle 1, but they've been bumped up to the mid-30s in level, like she is. But there are still going to be Grandal Elite in her mission. That's Chronicle 18, actually, not the next one. That are even higher level than that. So it kind of shows that what they mention at the end of this Chronicle, our characters say, oh wow, this is too well prepared defense, even though we supposedly took out the rebels. It's like Strife knew that we were going to betray him as well, you know, and yes, he seemed to have totally suspected that. And we also figure out that the the rebels who attacked us back in Chronicle 14, we realize weren't actually rebels. They were dressed as rebels, but they were agents sent by Strife. He was, you know, knew that we would be a thorn in his side as well as Gerardo. We'd turn on eventually, so he tried to eliminate us and make it look like the rebels did it. So, interesting little bits of story advance here, but the game is awful. Luckily, it is any percent, so it's not quite as awful as it would be on SC percent. There's a really neat strategy my sister came up with for SC percent to help me out here, and it saves me a bit of time. But it saves more time not having to worry about the Soulcalibur character. Down here is Zos LML. Some think that he's the worst, and yes, down lose means that he can one-shot you. But he falls pretty quickly to the Swordmaster. He's rarely able to beat my Swordmaster's katana charge, so I'm not that worried about him most of the time. You know, whatever. But he's a whatever. But the real painful one in here is actually the Whirlwind, where Talim and Yun Sung are together. They're in a very powerful whirlwind. They're programmed like Sung Mina on ice to take advantage of it, and they do and so they're very good at ringing you out. So you have to make your way through 2 level 60 characters. Luckily, they're weaker classes, because each of the Soulcalibur characters is of the class that can use their style, so they keep the game consistent that way. They are a thief and a saint, respectively, which are 2 of the very weakest, worst classes, any way you look at it. But even so, it's really rough to fight 2 level 60 characters in a really horrendous whirlwind when they are able to take advantage of the whirlwind to the maximum and use it against you. Luckily, it's any percent. We don't have to worry about them. We just have to worry about taking 4 more strongholds and defeating 2, 4, 6, 7 more enemies. Which it's going to take us, yes, about another 10 minutes to get through those enemies, depending on how much they kill us. Because we did the easy ones, now we have the hard ones. Starting with Meilon here. Not to be confused with Mulan, which very brief aside, I'm actually looking forward to that live-action remake. Because I love Chinese action movies, and that's basically what they're going to turn Mulan into, as a live-action movie, so that looks like it's going to be good. But we have to deal with Meilon, and then 4 or 5 more, including the boss. The boss is actually one of the weaker characters on this map. I am not nearly as scared of the boss as I am of the other characters I have to fight.
Now, battle 1, fight.
Particularly Yukina, the samurai girl. Last easy one. The boss is easiest of the named characters, I should say. As usual, the nameless guys are fighting. Oh, Meilon's being nice to me today. Yes, she was super nice. Okay, good. We're on a good pace here with this one so far. Alright, sealess is it? Sealess is fine, actually. Losing frames again. Apparently my internet is not working super great today. It's unfortunate. Especially since I lost my thing. I'm almost hoping I don't PB now. Even if I do, I don't think I'm going to upload it as my PB. The signal's just too bad. I'll have to... It's unusual for this to be happening, and it's unfortunate that, you know, sometimes that's the way it is. These two, especially, are extremely vicious against my Dancer, and I often die here, so it's best just not to use her, right? Besides, I can get good ring-outs here. I never remember to... It's something that for some reason I've just never done, but this can save me a decent amount of time and a lot of pain, because the map goes fine, provided I don't lose a character that slows me down. And also, I want to start giving more experience to my swordmen anyway, because my sword masters are going to start fighting a little bit more than my main characters. We get towards the end here anyway. 1,404 dropped frames during this session. All those poor frames. I am not saving the frames. They are being lost. Alright. I could have started them forward a little bit quicker. That's fine. The last few maps have generally been fast-paced enough that they don't feel to drag, but this Chronicle really, really drags. It's even worse in the speedrun than casually because of the fact that you're trying to get through it 3 characters and everything just goes so slow. And of course, as you get further in the game, all the strongholds have more hit points, but your characters do not do more hit points to strongholds based on their level. My bandits will always do 5, so it just... The combination of having fewer characters, more strongholds to get through, and bigger strongholds, and so many of them are level 3 as well, just makes it such a pain. Now, this is the most dangerous fight since I didn't... I could potentially, once again, pull my Dancer back, actually, and just forget about... using her. It would lose a tiny amount of time there, but I think that the Sword Masters would be a little bit less dangerous. I'm going to stick with it, though. Since I skipped a couple of other fights with her, she's lower level than she would be in most of my runs at this point anyway, and I do need to have some amount of hit points so I don't lose her or have to do emergency things in Chronicle 20. But I know that if I get a few other things good, I can do a whole lot better even than this run. See how it goes. 16 is, I think, my last chance to really save time. The rest of my runs were... Splits were really good towards the end here. On my PB, I wasn't all that impressed with it until the last few Chronicles I did super duper well. And that's what made up all my time. So once again, very powerful Separate. It's not as bad as the Separate against Brunhild, although it's going worse. Because these characters are not as long-range focused as Brunhild is.
Battle 2. Fight.
But Konomi especially is really dangerous. So she can do things like that. And again, I can't get my guaranteed hit on her unless she decides to go forward. And if she goes to the side, oftentimes... Okay. Woo. Now I actually could lose against Yagami, though. That might lose me a little bit more time. That got me 2 more levels, though, so... I want to be about 50 by the time I end, just so I have enough hit points to survive all the fights in level 20, even if I don't actually use her in them. Complicated thing, of course. If you've seen me run before, you know pretty much what I'm talking about, but we'll get there. So second biggest break of the run, or maybe even the longer break than Gerardo, cutscene here. Pretty close too. Because now I just give these guys the order to run here, and all I do is sit and beat on this stupid stronghold. And because of all the hit points it has, I do 4 points per hit to these strongholds, so that's going to be 12 points of damage. 4 times 3 characters is 12 per swing. Each swing taking about a second. So you're looking at, you know, just about a minute there, a little bit less than a minute. 55 seconds, just about, of just purely beating on this, out, plus the time after I give the orders for them to run up this long path. It's a good long time. Time for some donations. Oh, we're not in a marathon. Too bad. Instead, 24, 18, 43, decent levels for those 3. I almost want to pull her back right now so she doesn't die, actually, and I can just kill him with those 2. They'll save me a little bit of time. Yeah, it has a good chance of getting me a really, really good time here anyway. I think I'm going to do it. It's something I should definitely adjust to a lot more in most of my runs, is pull back on... I've already done it for a long time, such as during the AG fight, since I know I'm not going to win with my dancer and that death is going to do almost nothing. I go ahead and pull her back anyway. So I ought to do it a lot more throughout the speedrun, though. Whenever I know that the fight is basically going to go badly for my dancer, I should just go ahead and pull her back, not use her.
Battle 1. Fight. Now.
Oh, wow. This is, again, one of those instances where I'm glad that he's going to kill my Swordmaster anyway. That's incredible. One of those instances, though, where I'm glad that a ring out doesn't kill. Hey! Yes! I didn't die. The double ring out was bad, but this is a very good gold. I'm actually going to be ahead of schedule now. I almost think that's sad, considering that I have both a... my recording failed, and I've had dropped frames, so the stream isn't going to look good. Makes me very sad. Oh well. That's where they realized that the Emperor was behind our the rebel attack assassination attempt, not the actual rebels. Now this one, well, actually this one I can save more time too. It went badly as well. Let's see if it goes badly here. Actually, another good time too. Probably leave more characters at 2 might save a little. No. That'll actually take more time. I'm still not sure which is closer, 3 or 2. I ought to put more people at 2 though, because I don't think that might be slightly closer. It's also closer to reach with several of my characters. 5 could go to either one, but 1 and 2 are definitely closer to 2. 4 would be closer to 3. The 5, 1, and 2 could go to 2, and those 3 and 4 to 3 for the best speed. Small little optimization. One of those things I think about constantly. There's so much in the game that, and so many points of really nothing, which is great for me being able to talk about a bunch of stuff and fill the time and tell about what's going on and everything, but
Decisive battle.
makes me not the best at optimizing little things like knowing exactly. There's some of them, especially early on, where I'm really good at, but optimizing the movements of giving my characters. I know there are optimizations, but sometimes I'm not the best at using them.
Fight.
So, Mega. If you played the game casually, you're probably very aware of Mega because you used him and his katana to dominate the enemy. He is one of our former companions. Most of our enemies here are our former companions, except for this one, who is Sophitia, one of the 2 Soulcalibur characters we actually fight during the any percent run. Hey, Sophitia, please be nice today. Nope. Okay, you're making up for it. And we're good. But so anyway, all of our former comrades have been stationed here to defend this part of Grandal as we continue our rebel invasion. As we are Artheus and not the purple rebels, we thought purple was a bad color, so we decided to use the alternate Grandal color, blue. Okay, whatever. I don't know what the name Artheus signifies, where it comes from. One character mentions it in the course of the game if you pick up Shaoxin, but he doesn't explain why it's used. He says a statement after Artheus, the Resolute, or something like that. So maybe that's what it means or something. I don't know. It's weird. Whatever. I'm actually going to... I've had the most problem with Kira recently. I didn't used to, but recently I've been having a lot of problems with it. So I might actually pull my character back from fighting against Kira. But, so we don't know what that means. Whatever. But anyway, so... Our characters don't want to fight us. They left us as a general. They think they're our best friends. However, the commander of this force gives them each a piece of Soul Edge, which somehow the Emperor not only has Soul Edge, he's been collecting the pieces, because just like, you know, in the regular game, Soul Edge is able to regrow itself from shards if somebody with enough power gets a hold of it into separate swords and such and change its shape. So they've collected several shards of Soul Edge, which they give to our soldiers and turns them into zombies who will follow the directives of Aeolus, the leader of this group. And so in order to get them back, we have to defeat them. No matter what route I'm running, though, we pretty much only ever fight Mega, which is sad. Aeneas comes back automatically because he's our primary buddy, our very first companion, and he's, you know, our mouthpiece, so they wanted that in the story, similar to how Aeliad joins you in Chronicle 8, even if you don't save her, let her die. Yeah, she's being really awful right now. She didn't used to be, it's weird. I swear that she was not all that bad when I fought her early, but anyway, that wasn't a super great fight, but it's better than dying, which has happened to me recently, so I'm still going to save some more time on this Chronicle as well, which is very nice. Definitely gets me a lot closer to that, considering that... Dolly, looking at this, I have minutes and I can save in several of these splits. Alright, anyway, so Aeneas automatically joins, and whoever you defeat joins, which would be Mega. Even if I was doing, like, a meme category like the one I've made, MCO, where I only make the one main character, so I have a dancer. Even if I were doing that, I wouldn't go out of my way to fight anybody else, because there's nobody worth collecting who wouldn't waste a whole lot of time getting. So, unfortunately, they're going to have to remain zombies, but that's okay. They probably get better after we finish off the Emperor. It'll be all good. Don't worry, guys. If you're playing the game casually and you decide to skip through a lot of this part, you're going to be disappointed at not getting back as many good characters as you'd hope. It's kind of convenient for the MCO run that Mega does run down here to fight with Sophia, while all the rest of them only stay inside their strongholds. Because that means you automatically get him back while taking the fastest route, and he's the only real one that really is worth adding anyway. So it could be kind of nice to get a couple more of them, like Eurydice, who uses Iron Sword. Iron Sword is another one that a lot of people have told me they like, and I understand why. AB is really hard for enemies to block, similar to the Spin to Win. Not quite as good and easy to dodge a lot of times, especially later on, but it's decent enough, better than a bunch of other things you have access to. But it's just not worth it. That's Reese there. Eurydice is there. So we'd have to go through that. I guess it wouldn't be that bad to get to it. Yeah, Smash is Aeneas. We wouldn't, as we say, we get Aeneas back anyway, so that's fine. Aeneas is also an okay character with a Lance. Lance is not super reliable, but it has, with its long range and really good stats, you can do decent damage while poking at range. Not really fast, but pretty safe for a lot of the time. For some fights you need them.
Battle 1.
Aeolus is the other huge character, very tall, very unfair. He has all unblockable. Luckily, he's not that aggressive. So usually, that's one of the most aggressive things he's ever done to me, really. Wasn't that aggressive.
It looks like I got lucky.
I should get kind of close to 50. It's not the fastest, but better than my PB, so... Also interesting that because of the fact that it's the only one where I fight Soulcalibur characters. This is another map, and the last one of the last 3, not including 20, that's totally the same in any percent and SC%. Alright, now this has to go super right for me to save time, but there are potentials. I'm not sure what happened in my PB that really made me save so much time. I'm gonna go cavalry here. Try and do some tricks. And now we face Abilia. Several of our troops still care for Abilia, like Tina, the most expressive of our new group that we recruited for this. Poor Meliador has done almost nothing. He needs to gain some levels. So I'm here mostly as a distraction to try and pull enemies away. I don't want my main character to be involved in any fights, though, because my... Oh, that's bad. I thought I was farther away than that. I'm messing up my new strategy already, so I'm going to lose more time here. That's kind of sad. That might kill my chance at a PB, because this is a really, really good time, and I'm still not sure just how I got it all to work out so perfectly. It's definitely the fastest route to go top, because there's only one stronghold I have to worry about, but this is dangerous, too. She could kill me right here. Awoka is strong. Oh, good. Anyone with the katana is always a strong AI and really powerful, and she's one of the higher level characters, so yeah, that's bad. But if they don't end up taking my stronghold, it may be okay later on. Maybe this might prompt more. This might actually end up being accidentally really good. Sometimes that happens. Dangerous, but really good if it works. The nice thing is, it's only a couple minutes in, so it's not a big time save. But nope, nope, it is going totally wrong. This is not supposed to be like this. I have no idea why this happened. This did not happen last time. It's not supposed to be happening. They run around kind of randomly. There are lots of guys here, and there are lots of field for them to run through, but usually having my main character down there prompts many of them to come after me. And to run around in shifts. Very few of them are supposed to come up this path, if any at all. In fact, they're not supposed to engage me until I'm near that stronghold down there, so this just wasted a lot of time.
Battle 2. Fight. Now.
Baldwin, by the way, is one of the more interesting characters because he's level 3. I think he's some sort of a small, not really a bug, but a mistake overlooked in the program. I think he's supposed to be one of Abilia's normal troops. Level 3 would have been an appropriate level for Chronicle 1, for one of the named troops like Notice here, who we fought in Chronicle 1. But he wasn't there. He's not anywhere on the map. But they brought back all of Abilia's troops you fought in Chronicle 1. Specifically, her 2 troops, Ishtar and Notice. So I think Baldwin was supposed to be there as well, but he's either forgotten or decided to be removed at the last moment. But when they did that, it caused this Baldwin, for whatever reason, to be level 3. Either because he got missed, he didn't get properly upgraded in level, or they didn't load the right one, or something, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's fine. I have no idea how far I'm going to go before the enemies come after me. Everything is totally off the rails on this Chronicle already. Not a super huge deal, it's just going to mean some time lost from extra fights. Very, very weird. I'm pretty certain there's nothing I really did differently than last time, except for accidentally engaging that one character. Well, I didn't go that far up, I'm pretty sure. If I did, I went back immediately. But even so, they seem to turn awful quickly. Maybe despite all of my true beliefs, there really is a just pure RNG associated with the AI of these troopers. I don't think that's the case, but sometimes it really seems like it might be.
You picked the wrong person to fight.
Most of them are totally predictable, but there are just a couple that certain maps where it seems really hard to get any kind of consistent action out of them. Now, yeah, this guy's turning up this way too, unfortunately, so that's another fight I'm gonna have. They all went the wrong way. Why did they all go the wrong way? I don't know. So weird. Well, whatever.
Final battle, fight.
Oh, no.
Ring out.
Well, this might end up saving time.
Ring out.
You're way too weak.
The whole point of going cavalry, it really spoils the whole reason I went cavalry and why I'm so proud of this clever strat too, because I think it's fun to have to swap for certain missions and not just use bandits. But the whole point was, by getting some of them to run down there and start chasing me, I can run back behind my stronghold. I don't want to fight with my main character because this is another map where if my main character dies, I lose the mission. And my characters are going to die on this map. It's actually forced because, as you will see, I'm slightly spoiling the surprise I sometimes like to give, but my characters are going to die, and so I don't want my main character involved in those fights that are going to get her killed, and especially against the dangerous fights. So having her act as a deterrent is really, really good for my strategy. When she can pull guys away so I don't have to fight them, that's very good for me. But it didn't happen this time,
This is good.
for whatever reason, and I'm still not sure why. And so the one problem I've had with this strategy before is that I get too many enemies and they took my stronghold, and so then the best way to prevent them from getting me is they'll take my main stronghold. Pardon me. They'll take my main stronghold before the end as well. So I can use the plug technique and try and block them in that stronghold, but then I'm in danger of taking the stronghold before the main stronghold is taken as well. Another drawback to it. So all of these things can cause problems there to go against, and I don't want that. So, however, now those two are going to go back, so it's like whatever. I don't think she's going to take it as cavalry, but that's why it's a cavalry. So I do less damage. I can run away more easily, and I'll do less damage to strongholds. So if they do take my stronghold and I'm forced to do a plug technique to prevent them from reaching my main stronghold and possibly taking it, I won't be able to take that stronghold before back and therefore force a fight before the ending comes. But now there's really no point to that because I didn't really engage them in combat much, if at all. And I'm not strong enough to defeat that character in the field either, so I couldn't have just left them fighting it out in the field. Let's see. Usually I built that up so they won't be able to take it, but I don't think that matters all that much. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really. Think they're going to take it first, barely. Nope, they didn't even. Good. That saved me time. Usually, again, I build up that stronghold so they won't be able to take it, but as it turns out, it's not even necessary. So, final fight against Abilia. Well, once again, she has a new outfit, which she actually had at the start of Chronicle 13 as well, if we actually looked at her. Instead of having her breastplate and armor, she's got this officer dress. Her cutscene, once again, this is our third and thankfully final instance of Guardian Force. And Abelia is at the same time the best and worst of them.
A traitor, even if it is you.
Because it's the first and only time we'll be able to fight more than just the main villain with it. Now, the good news is, her stats are really trash and she takes a lot of damage. The bad news is she doesn't damage herself. This is still probably the easiest of the fights overall. I can defeat her with one character, and I have before, which is super convenient, but it's not reliable. So I have to watch out for that. She doesn't damage herself when she attacks, as I say, which is a bit convenient. Instead, she takes damage when she blocks, which is kind of just eh, but whatever. It means that as long as I'm attacking, I will be doing some damage to her, but since she'll just attack anyway, it's definitely better when she doesn't because her stats are luckily low. Okay, there's the preview. Now that I've beaten Abelia, I no longer care about the rest of my characters. Boy, I'm already losing a lot of time. Yeah, I knew this was going to be bad.
Battle 3, fight.
Now, I could try and fight these guys, but it would take a bit because they also have Guardian Force, even though they don't have the glow around them. For some reason, the glow is only on the first character. It may even mean something else, because Strife in the final battle also has a glow about him. I don't know.
Please.
Battle 4, fight.
But, now, this is the one instance where Assassinate being different than Take the Main Stronghold is important. Most of the time, enemies won't be able to defend the main stronghold, and you can't defeat, or the boss will be fought last anyway, so it's like pretty much impossible to take out the main villain and not be able to take the stronghold. But this is the one instance where it is possible because of these guys coming in from the south side, because of the way this main stronghold is situated between the two sections here, and I only attack from the one side. So it can go even faster if I only use like 2 characters. However, pretty much every time I've used 2 characters, Abelia has taken that as liberty to be ultra aggressive and has owned me, and so then I lose even more time because I can't defeat her. I have to let some characters regenerate, and it's just all awful. So even though it wastes time, I always take a third one just as a absolute safety mechanism. Once again, my 19 was super perfect. Luna joins us for some reason, and she brings Soulcalibur with her. Yeah, after her defeat, Gerardo took her in, decided, hey, you're going to stay with me for a while, and now if anything happens to me, I need you to take care of my old protege, Rydia, okay? And so she joins our party, gives us Soulcalibur, although we don't actually get the weapon with her style until after we win the final mission. So whatever. And now we have the final mission, which is the biggest map by far. Luckily, most of it we can ignore, so it isn't actually... It's definitely a long Chronicle, but not the longest. Unfortunately, sometimes when you... the cursor always wants to start on the main character, but if I put multiple characters on certain maps in certain spots, it gets a little bit... Just because of the camera controls, I'm not quite sure how it all works, but it gets a little funky, so it selects a different character. So it makes it harder to select the whole party to speed them through. Anyway, on SC%, I'd be coming down here to fight Nightmare, a very small detour. Kind of disappointing as the final Soulcalibur character. Because he's a barbarian, and I've ranted about that many times. Barbarians is one of the first classes, it's the very first class in the list, one of the weaker ones. One of the better of the starting 6, actually, despite being in the first position. It really is. But still, compared to the higher level classes, and especially like Swordmaster, it's a very weak class. And it's disappointing that, especially Nightmare, who is supposed to be the big villain, the biggest boss, generally, as far as the 23 main characters are concerned, although you can argue Zasamel in a way. But he's one of the more traditional big bosses of the Soulcalibur universe, so it's appropriate he's the last one you fight. But being a weak barbarian instead of a powerful knight just is very disappointing. One of the weird quirks of this that I always mention, and last time I finally checked out, we have these 4 generic characters here. Rather than being the first ones you fight, the generic characters are in the very back. And these 3 don't move, these 3 right here, but this one's slightly off to the side right here. She always falls back into the main stronghold when you start approaching. When you reach about right here, I just found out. I finally watched that and figured it out. Small detail, but it's just a little thing that I found fascinating and always wondered about. Fairly low odds now of being able to PB, but it's possible. I can't remember if my Chronicle 20 was really good or on PB or not. I've done so many runs and done so many PBs that it fluctuates wildly. But I think it was pretty good.
Battle 1. Fight.
How irritating.
How rude.
You should really give up.
I suggest you...
Battle 2. Fight.
You should really... It looks like I won today, but who knows what'll happen
All
next
right,
time.
that's those 2. Pretty basic kind of thing here. By the time we've gotten here at this point, there's not a lot to remark about on this Chronicle, at least on this category. One possible thing I can do for donation incentives on marathons and stuff, as I like to do, is fight the Super Boss End. He's one of the famous... Whoops, I actually need to go all the way to there. Eliadul, though, is going to go down here to fight this person who's going to come out of that stronghold. If a character in the field runs into your entire group, they will all have to stop fighting the stronghold and instead focus on the guy there, so, and again, would all lose their command, so pulling one down slightly out of the way, because she will come up and reach me before I take that stronghold, of course, so that's just something to do. But anyway, End is way over here. He, as a level 99 Swordmaster, he's technically the most powerful character in the game. Although Emperor Strife's stats make him a much more dangerous opponent. That and his awesome sword he has. He doesn't even have a strong mission. It's just Aerial Wind again, which you'll see in effect, so it's annoying, but not really dangerous when you go floating high up in the air. He does have a really good AI because he's a katana-wielding Swordmaster. Katana, again, the AI is very good with Katana. It does seem to be the strongest overall weapon, even regardless of my shoulder charge I use so much. But all I have to do is get him locked down. He's pretty easy to defeat in the speedrun when you know what you're doing, because you can lock him down with spin to win pretty easily, and even defeat him with other Swordmasters. He had a lot of hit points, but no way to regenerate. So you'll wear him down with 5 characters generally if you're good enough to do at least a little bit of damage. 5 Swordmasters are no challenge against him. If I'm really unlucky, I might lose my Dancer, but Abigail really isn't cooperating. She didn't allow me to ring her out.
I won't hold back next time.
Poor Meliadul is just barely level 12. She's fought 9 times and lost twice. That's really bad for a Swordmaster. Often happens to my my 5th person, though. They can only be used for a certain amount of missions, so they tend to get the short end of the stick. What? Why do I have a person stuck in there? That's wasting time. Definitely, I don't think I'm going to make PB anymore. I had a chance there for a bit, but 18 went awful for some reason. I need to load that up and figure out what went wrong exactly.
Decisive battle.
After this fight coming up is my last little clever blocking strategy that I do. The plug, as I call it.
The fighters. Battle 1. Fight.
Hilda before there was Hilda.
Did you enjoy my
I got all the way up to
dance?
49. Good. I thought I wouldn't for a second. For a little bit there. I was a bit worried I wouldn't quite make it to 49. I have to start this fight separate, and I can fight the next two at the same time, then send her down to plug while the other characters rush to take the main stronghold.
Final battle. Fight.
You should really give up. It looks like I won today, but who knows what'll happen next time.
I've had a few runs. I don't know if she'll be weak enough for it, but I've had a few runs where I was low enough level that I got in major danger in Chronicle 20. Had to start a fight and a bit of a panic and prevent her from getting killed.
The almighty.
Let
Battle 1. Fight.
You should really give up.
It's hard to tell exactly if it's the case, but it seems to me, for all I'm playing of the game, that if you knock an enemy out of the ring, even if it is a ring out, it definitely is faster. But if they fall out of the ring, it seems to load the screen just a hair faster, a quarter second or something.
I'm sorry, but I
It's really
must
hard to
move
tell,
on.
but I've fought so many of these that it really does seem that way. I do know that it might be because it actually checks the time after the ring out starts before it actually picks up. So if I try to, I somehow try and manage to juggle a character who's falling out of bounds when they're already out of bounds for too long, it'll actually end the fight anyway. So maybe it's just that causes that seeming effect. So by, again, once more, as I've done many times during this run, by attacking this stronghold from this side, the enemy wants to rush, and this enemy coming up here too. These two want to run back to defend against the main stronghold, but they can't do that because I'm busy beating on it from this side. So they're stuck. Too bad. Won't be able to fight them. That means it's up to Chrono to win against our final stronghold boss, which is Chester. Yeah, we mentioned back in Chronicle 14 that Chester was still alive, serving as the lapdog to the Emperor. He hates him, but he feels that he wants revenge on us too, and serving Strife currently allows him to get revenge, so even though he hates being a lapdog to Strife, he definitely wants to kill us too. So, kind of, for the final stronghold boss, it's again a little bit anticlimactic. He usually isn't all that strong still. He's a sword master this time at level 60, but he's still not all that great. And he's only got all guard break as a mission. No guardian force, no ice, no reserve offense up to really make it scary if he gets weak. It's guard break, which is a meh, one of the most meh missions you can do. Looks impressive, lightning on your weapon and all, but it's also the only time you fight him. This is our third Chester fight. This is Chester 3. It's the only time you fight him without a cutscene. And usually he goes second because he's the boss, but sometimes the game throws you a curveball and makes you fight him before the generic character. Kind of weird that way. But we fight generic character first. This time, level 33 Chrono should have no problem with these guys. The one problem is that I really only get a choice between two characters for the all-important experience, last experience before the final mission. It's either him or it's either your second character or your main character. It's at this point too late to try to involve your fifth or fourth character and get them more experience. I don't have a big experience route in the game. I haven't routed that kind of thing at all. It doesn't really matter that much to me. It wasn't too bad of a Chronicle 19. But I have a small outside chance at a PB. In any case, it's going to be a really good time regardless. It should be sub 310, which I've only done a couple of times. Gold. Yeah, it was kind of okay. If I get a really, really good Strife fight, I can PB here. The first thing we're going to do is change our unit type to infantry. Because we're going to win this fight for the very unique way of just swarming over the enemy. There are no strongholds here, so the only forced Soulcalibur fight is against Strife, and I am messing that up bad. The trickiest thing, the biggest boss here, is trying to do the paths correctly, which may end up also influencing the character movement RNG kind of thing. Because again, it's some sort of weird random thing of how your characters, which ones are furthest forward when they move from one target to the next, when they all stop to fight one, either stronghold or a character. So, because there are no strongholds, there's no regenerating any characters. So if you lose your main character, you lose the game. And I don't want my main character fighting Strife because of that, because Strife can and will just absolutely devastate my poor little dancer. Kill her off in 1 or 2 hits. Really hard to get the thing going on him before he gets me. Very aggressive. I don't want to fight him anyway. And besides, if I fight him with my main character, I get a big long cutscene. Don't want that. So instead, we're going to... So we don't want to fight with our main character. That's last resort. So loading up all of these fights would take a long time. If the game loaded better, it might be faster to just do these in Soulcalibur combat and move on. It'd be fun to test, but I know it's slower fighting them because that's just how it goes. A little bit more dangerous for the final fight against Strife, but even losing once or twice against Strife doesn't make this any less hairy here. It doesn't speed. It isn't slower than stopping to fight all of these with a character and getting a guaranteed health up. These are pretty strong guys to fight anyway. Tough to get through even with my sword masters, although they're pretty reliable for killing them well and of course going to generate health. So it's easiest just to go through them like this and do the Soulcalibur combat because they don't move at all. So I only have to fight the ones I really want to fight, and we get through them 5-on-1. We can swarm over them pretty darn well. Now, the big thing is that I want my main character to absorb a lot of damage, but not all the damage. Because, of course, if my main character dies, or if any of my characters die, that's bad. And especially the main character, if they end up being the one killed, they are going to... I have to restart the whole Chronicle. If I lose anyone before Strife, it's really slow, because that's less damage I can inflict and makes it automatically more dangerous. Another level up for Rydia, wow. That may end up mattering slightly. Not sure. Like for this right here? Yeah. So getting those level ups, normally I scoff at them, but just the way that they're moving here, it might actually make the difference between having to panic start a fight real fast and getting through this properly. Rydia shouldn't be forward for any of these last couple of battles, but if she is, I'm going to have to make sure that she is out of the way. Another level up for her? That's pretty crazy. 3 in one Chronicle. That's a bit sad because it's time wasting and generally doesn't help, although those first 2 level ups I got may have been the decider for actually surviving. Now who's taking the damage here? Sealess? She may end up taking too much damage as well. That's unfortunate. Sometimes this happens. It's kind of an RNG based on which of my characters... Wow! Just barely. I'm glad I didn't panic. Okay, now I just got to make sure that neither Silas nor Rydia are in front for the next fight. Looks like it's going to be Chrono, which is perfect. I'll have 2 pristine characters. Since Chrono is my highest level sword master, I would have preferred he not take damage at all. But having only 3 of my characters damaged and 2 pristine is still really good. And he's going to have enough help that if I'm really forced to rely on him, I should have Strife down enough that I can survive. It's not going to be pretty. I really don't want to fight with Chrono either, but this is the last chance. Ooh, a level up for whoever that is. Meliadul, maybe? She needed it. That probably gave her a lot of level ups, actually. Okay, so Cyan. Meliadul next. And then Chrono, and if I have to do anything more than that, I'm dead anyway. So who cares? Because I know I won't be able to win a fight with Silas at 6 hit points or Rydia at 7. That's just ridiculous. It would have to be the most absolutely insane of situations to possibly pull off a win. Okay, here we go. Can I win this fight in less than a minute?
Fight.
Good start. Oh, very good start. Not quite. Oh, there we go. Wow, I think I'm going to PB.
Fight.
Holy cow, Strife is being so nice to me right now.
Ring out.
Wow, that was like the best Strife fight I've ever had. I'm almost disappointed that that went so well because of how garbage so much of the rest of the run was. I mean, look at this. I had an early death on Chronicle 2 that set me behind early. A very horrible death on Chronicle 5 that really set me behind. As, well, was that a mess up or just a death? I think it was just that. A little bit, a few things there. Made some back time in 8, but then had things go horribly wrong in 9 and lost another minute there. A death, that's what cost me in 9, that's right. Started to slowly make my way back. And then lost all my time again in 18 from things going super bizarre. Wow. Well, some of these are going to be really hard to make up time in, but that was nice. Nice little PB. And again, you know, but again, with my internet signal dropping frames in the middle of it, makes me a little bit sad, but
both the evil blade and the
hey, it
holy
was a pretty
blade
good run overall.
disappeared into darkness. The
Oh,
empire
God.
collapsed,
I've been grinding
and
for
the
this
people
so
were left
long
only
and
with
couldn't get
devastated
anything. And
lands
now, a
and the
day when
memories
everything's
of
going
the
wrong, it
terrible
just,
war.
the very last thing that needed to go right did.
The people,
and we
however,
won. It was perfect.
eventually
Oh,
forgot the
God.
hardships. They
But hey,
rebuilt
here's
the
our final
razed
cutscene.
villages
Game's
and
over.
sowed new seeds upon the
And it's almost
destroyed
over.
fields.
There isn't very much to this since it's just a game mode. We do get a nice, semi-satisfying epilogue. Some scenes, you know. Abilia and Luna are apparently in charge of helping the rebuild, or Luna's just acting as a citizen now, I don't know. They're waiting for our main character. Last
Then
important
by the
thing to note is
fireside,
the super
they told
awesome
the tales.
statue, animatronic
The
medieval
tales of
statue
the
of the
great
moving
ones
hand.
who spilt
Yes,
their
look at that
blood
moving hand,
upon
it's
those
glorious.
lands.
And that's Soulcalibur 3 Chronicles of the Sword, any percent. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this will be in upcoming marathons or stuff. But I always enjoy running this. It's a lot of fun. It's my favorite thing to run, play. So that's going to be it for now. I'm probably going to do some gold box later tonight,
The
but that's it
legend
for this
will never
moment.
die.
Take it easy, all of you. Again, thanks for watching, and see you later.
Soulcalibur 3.